New York Giants fans, welcome to another Giant Overreaction. And this one is going to be super interesting. Now, y'all saw my tweet that I posted up a couple weeks back. I said if the Giants start 0-2, don't panic. 0-3, I think it's time to panic out here, man. This was a dismal game by the New York Giants, man. Congrats to Arthur Smith and the Falcons on their first win of the 2021 season. The Giants fall to 0-3 again. This is the second time in franchise history we've had consecutive 0-3 starts. The last time was 1995 and 1996. Patrick Graham and his defense got to step it up, man. They allowed a fourth quarter 15-play drive, 72 yards. Adoree drops the interception. Logan Ryan gets the pass interference call. Falcons end up getting a touchdown to tie the game. And you just felt it at that point. You know, I think I tweeted out some at that time. This is starting to feel a lot like the first two games, especially like the Broncos game. And you just knew the offense was going to shoot themselves in the foot. Daniel Jones allows the snap to go over his head. I think that's a combination of Price being at center and Daniel Jones having the Burger King hands. The Giants were seemingly in position to put up points, forced to punt the ball again, and then I just knew. I really just took a seat in my chair, and I just allowed it to all unravel. I figured a game-winning field goal was on its way, and that's exactly what happened. The Giants fall 17-14 to a Falcons team that most Giants fans were looking forward to playing. We thought that this could be a homecoming type game on the schedule, for lack of a better word. But this was definitely not a homecoming for the New York Giants. We lost Blake Martinez for the year. He's going to be out with an ACL tear. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both injured in this game. And to me, that's when the offense really fell apart, is when Sterling Shepard goes out of this game. Wanted to give one shout out to the homie Colin Johnson. 5 catches for 51 yards. That was pretty decent. But y'all know how we do here on the Overreaction, man. We're going to be talking about topics today that, might be an overreaction or might not be an overreaction. We'll see how things go. We're going to take the over or take the under. We're going to also implement the push on this episode, as I took a couple of those with my homie The Pest on the first episode of this show. Shout out to Pest for pulling up. Shout out to The Hub for pulling up week 2. I got another special guest that I'm bringing on today, man. To me, this is the GOAT of the Giants community right here one time. So without further ado, let me bring him on one time and we'll get to chopping it up one time. Y'all make some noise in the chat. Let's see some biceps in the chat for the homie Entertainer Talking Sports in the building one time. Giants Nation is in the building. How you doing today, Entertainer? How you doing, man?
Your intro is the first time I've smiled since about 4 p.m. yesterday. So thank you for the kind words, man. And thank you to everybody for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. Sean G, Woodshed, everybody that's in here. And, of course, Awthentik. I love everything that you're building over here. You're a great guy. And hopefully I get to meet you again. I don't know if you're going to be going to the Eagles game, but if you are, hopefully I get to meet you again this year. But
definitely.
Obviously, we got a lot to talk about. And, it's sad times right now to be a New York Giant fan, and I was telling you before, and we're going to get into the overs and the unders and everything, but
facts.
I was telling you before that this team is starting to go down the path where I feel like I'm almost rebooting my YouTube channel again. Like when I first started on YouTube 2018, I'm like, all right, guy, or 2019 rather. 2018 was kind of half and half. We didn't know what we were going to be, but 2019, all right, guys, we got to be patient. We're rebuilding. It takes some time. And, right now, how could you feel any other way as a New York Giant fan if you're being honest with yourself? Off an 0-3 start with a loss to the Atlanta Falcons, looking at the upcoming schedule that we got, that it looks like an absolute mess right now for this football team. And we continue to be bad in the areas that we need to be good in, and that's the trenches. That's where teams ultimately need to win and lose football games. And the New York Giants have not solved that since I've been on YouTube and long before that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And you know that a lot of the reason why me and the Beard actually started up the show was influence from you, building your channel early on. I was one of the day ones in 2019, 2018 times when you were in the apartment and all that. And I would just search Giants news every morning and Entertainer would pop up first. And so I became a fan and I loved your delivery. And you always, on point with the stats. Breaking news, you always on top of things, so definitely kudos to you on that, man. But I feel you, man. It does feel like we're kind of regressing, with all the money spent in the offseason. It kind of seems like, we expected to win this year. I know a lot of people had the Giants at 10 wins. I myself had the Giants at 9 wins, and I was feeling good coming into this season, and now we're looking at 0-3, and I know, there's 14 games left on the schedule, but it's starting to feel like, we're about to hit the super trenches of this schedule, and I'm struggling to find a win on this schedule here, man. Atlanta, Washington, Broncos, those were games that we looked at as winnable on the schedule. When I first started, doing my predictions for the year, I had an L against the Saints there. The Cowboys was a toss-up. I got an L against the Rams. I thought early on in the year we could beat the Carolina Panthers team, but they look much improved, looking like to be maybe the number one defense in the NFL. Kansas City, we know what that is. I'm high on Derek Carr. And then you got the bye week to kind of regroup, but then you come out of that bye and you got the Bucs. So we know that these next couple of games are going to be very excruciating for the Giants, man. So I understand why a lot of fans are panicking. I get it, and I'm a fan. Y'all know that. I don't pride myself on being no GM, no coach, no specialist, none of this. I just try to do my best to report what's happening with the Giants. And right now, it feels like you can't point the finger at one person for the Giants. I'm pointing the finger at the team and the organization because we're a failure across the board. When the offense is playing well, the defense is playing bad. When the defense is playing well, the offense is playing bad. Special teams, we're having mistakes. We know the Washington game was a big mistake on the special teams. Joe Judge coming in here is supposed to be a no-nonsense kind of guy and supposed to be implementing discipline, and that doesn't seem to be what we're getting from the New York Giants right now. It seems like, I don't want to jump the gun, but I've been seeing this a lot on Twitter. Everybody's saying clean house. I even see it in the comments already, and I'm going to do my best to stay intact with the comments, but understand I'm producing the show as we're doing the show too, so that makes it a little difficult to stay on the comments. But I'm gonna try to highlight a lot of comments today. But Tainer, I just want you to kind of put, some some WD-40 or some bubble wrap or some duct tape around this team, and what can we look forward to, for the rest of these 14 games? Are we cooked? Is this over, or is there something possibly Giants fans could look forward to before we get into this over/under vibe here on the show?
I always try to be optimistic, and I try to be as realistic as I can, but still bring a glass half full perspective. That's basically what I've always tried to be on my YouTube channel. Of course, I always say I'm going to be at least slightly biased. I'm a Giants fan. But when I look at this schedule right now, Awthentik, if I'm being honest with you, the only chance that we could remain even somewhat relevant throughout the rest of the year, we have to go at least 3-3 over the next 6, and we're playing probably the 3 best teams in football. And with the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Bucs. So if I'm being honest, and we're playing at New Orleans, we're playing at Dallas, and we're playing the Raiders, who are 3-0, and the Panthers, who are 3-0. So, if I'm being honest, Awthentik, and I know a lot of, optimistic fans who are looking for like little things to be happy about will say, well, we should have beaten Washington had Dexter Lawrence not jumped off sides, or if Darius Slayton caught the football. Well, we should have beaten we should have won the game yesterday if a couple of things went our way against Atlanta. But at the end of the day, Awthentik, this is what bad teams do. And I think as a fan base, we need to start to realize this is bad teams find ways to lose football games. And that was a game yesterday where is the excuse to lose? You're home.
Right.
You had an extra 3 days to prepare. They're missing their number 1 cornerback. They're missing their number 2 wide receiver. Barkley looked a little bit more like himself. He looked like he was starting to get back into the groove. So I guess if you're trying to look for something optimistic, Daniel Jones has played pretty good. I'm not saying he's been incredible, but he's been pretty good. He's not the reason why we're losing. If you would have told me, Awthentik, before the year started, Daniel Jones is going to have 0 interceptions and the Giants are going to be 0-3, I would have called you an idiot.
Yeah, it's crazy. In his last 8 games, he has the 1 interception that was just tipped off to what you call it, Evan Ingram. And we know how that goes. Let me get this super chat real quick from Nick the Wick. Shout out Nick the Wick, man. Blessed me with the Odell Beckham jersey on my back wall over here, signed by Odell Beckham, man. Appreciate that one time. He says, before I go to practice, I have one thing to say. Dave gave this offense enough weapons to be at bare minimum a decent offense. We are not that, so fire JG is what he's saying. And yeah, I totally understand the frustrations on that, man. That's the offense has not played to what we thought they could be. Week 2 was a pretty decent showing, and we looked for things to kind of springboard from there, but that wasn't the case. So I totally agree with you on that. And as far as looking forward, yeah, it's tough, man. Giants we're in a position right now where I feel like everybody can throw all the playoff hopes out of the window for now, at least until this team shows us something. We're back to that vibe that we're too used to. 0-3 just feels like normal Giants football after week 3. I can remember seasons where we were 0-5, 0-6. I think that was last season we was 0-5. I can't remember off the top of my head.
We started I think we were 0-5 and we started 1-7 last year.
Yeah, so I know Giants fans are accustomed to this, and we're getting really tired of this, but I see Bark Nasty in the chat is going off for sure. Bark Nasty's one that's just saying get rid of everybody. But let's get into this over-under vibes. Y'all know how we do here. If you agree it is an overreaction, we're going to take the over and agree with the overreaction. You could take the push if you need a little bit of more time on the questions. We're going to do 6 questions and take the under if you agree with the fans here and don't think it's an overreaction. So I tried to put these in order of, I want them to increase, and kind of by the time we get to the last question, there's an explosion happening here with Awthentik and Entertainer almost. So I'll start with one of the most obvious ones. And this was actually a question on my first episode of Giant Overreaction when I had Pest on the show. And we'll start with this one here. Firing Jason Garrett is the first step in fixing the problems with the Giants offense. And Tane, I'm going to let you go first. If you think that this is an overreaction, take the over. If you think this is a proper reaction, we're going to take the under, and give me a brief reasoning why you picked your side of, the over and the under on that one.
Yeah, I've been a guy that's tried to be as fair as I try to be as fair as I can with everybody. And I do think that the fan base did use Jason Garrett as a punching bag for quite some time. And whenever there was blame to go elsewhere, they didn't look that way. They just said it was always Garrett, and he's the only reason why this team is struggling, or at least they made it seem that way. And I do think Joe Judge does have a lot of say on the offense. But what I'll say is, after yesterday, Awthentik, I don't know how, as a Giants fan, you could have watched that game and said to yourself, well, something doesn't need to change with this offense. I mean, the week before, the read option was working beautifully. Daniel Jones was dominating with that. He should have run for 140 yards if it wasn't for that phantom hold goal by C.J. Board. The Giants didn't use it in this game. Now, maybe the Falcons, took that away from them, and maybe the Giants felt like they had to go elsewhere. But regardless, you're going up against the defense as poor as the Falcons, and you take no shots down the field. I think they attempted 2 throws all game of over 20 yards.
Yep.
The offensive game plan yesterday was a complete and utter disaster. And I'm at the point right now, Awthentik, where, I look at last year, and were there some excuses? Absolutely. Just like there were excuses for Jones, there was excuses for the offense to perform the way in which they did. Barkley went down. We didn't have very many weapons, but I'm at the point right now, Awthentik, where I'm like, we got to see something different, man. So I'm going to say under. I'm going to say, I am completely for making a change. Like, if they're going to make a change right now, like a lot of people look at Gettleman, and Gettleman's going to get fired. I'll tell you that right now for anybody that wants him fired. He is going to get fired unless, like you said, this team has a miraculous turnaround, as he should be. But I don't see the impact that makes on this year's team. Like, if you bring in outside of maybe you're like, oh, well, Gettleman may make a stupid trade to try to save his job. Changing Jason Garrett could make a significant change, because maybe if Freddie Kitchens you feel could do a much better job, or name the guy on the staff that could try to invigorate this offense and get more of a spark and be more consistent, it's worth a shot. Jason Garrett's clearly not going to be the long-term option here anyway. So I'm for it, man. I've gotten on board now with if they feel like that's a change that needs to be made, that they should make it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, but I'm on the ledge, and I'm not willing to jump off it just yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the push on this one, simply because I feel like with this offense there are a lot of other problems, and to me the number one problem is not pairing Saquon Barkley with a number 2 running back who is solidified. I know we spent that guaranteed money on Booker in the offseason, but he wasn't even active yesterday. So for me, I think that the Giants offense, the number one fix for this is if we could run the ball, I think everything would open up down the field for these wide receivers. Daniel Jones has been showing incredible poise in the pocket. I do like what Jason Garrett has done with him as far as keeping the turnovers low, and that's something that Pat Shurmur definitely struggled with. And I'm not I do understand everyone who is saying, like, let's start right there. But the one thing I'm scared of is if you do it in season, how fast is this Giants offense going to be, to get acclimated with a new system and a new coordinator calling the plays? And I'm not one who's to want to go to Freddie Kitchens. We saw how Freddie Kitchens' situation worked out when he was the head coach and he was calling plays with the Browns. They pretty much were saying over there that he had a problem with relationships with players. So, and this year he's pretty much been an offensive line guy for us. I don't see him coming in midseason and really generating any kind of spark for the Giants. So, and this is the Giant overreaction. So for me, it's like, I don't want to jump the gun on Jason Garrett, and I agree with you 100%. He's been used as a punching bag and as a scapegoat for the Giants fan base because, well, at least from my perspective, what I think it is that Jason Garrett being a ex-Cowboys coach, it's an easy kind of out to just be like, oh, get rid of that guy, And on
top of that, and I think a lot of people were buying last year into the Joe Judge love fest.
Yes.
And I think rather than, because it's just common sense. Like, if the offense isn't doing something that you like, Judge is at least somewhat responsible for
Gotta
it.
be.
But I think rather than pointing their venom towards Judge because they were like, this is our next Bill Belichick, people just said, no, we got to blame it on Garrett. That's the guy. That's the reason for all of our problems. That I completely disagree with. I think there's a lot more reason why this offense and this team in general has struggled. But Garrett, I do think, is part of the problem.
100%, 100% part of the problem. I definitely agree he's part of the problem because, I mean, when you're just seeing, you know, the offense just stagnant, and then to top it off, you got Joe Judge managing the clock and just mismanaging timeouts. The Giants are that team that if one thing goes wrong, the game goes wrong. And you got to blame that on the coaches. Discipline has been a major thing here as well because it seems to be that the offense gets themselves in position. I actually, last night, I went back and I rewatched the game, and I like to write things down a lot because you know, it instills it like in my memory a little bit better when I write things down. So I just went through the game through the first half and I just wrote down every play from the offense and just like what happened. Why did the drive stall out? And there was so many different factors. You know, you get to a first down, there's a penalty. You get to that second down, Daniel Jones, the snap goes over his head. Now you staring at an 11-yard loss. How are you supposed to climb out of these things? And also it's the second game in a row where, you know, early on in the game, we get a big play early on, and then we don't score a touchdown after getting that big play. We somehow settle for a field goal, and you just see mismanagement in the red zone. There's a lot going on with this team, you know, that's outside of Jason Garrett's, you know, control as well. But I don't think I'm not a guy over here saying like, hey, Jason Garrett's doing a fantastic job. If I had to grade what he's doing on the season, I'm looking at somewhere like a D+ or maybe a C-, but I wouldn't even reach to the C-, you know, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think Patrick Graham I thought did a pretty good job, but overall, I would actually give Patrick Graham this year a worse grade than Jason Garrett through 3 games, if I'm being completely honest, or at least an equal grade.
And I think people did not expect that. They didn't expect our offense to come out in 3 games and put up a better showing than our defense did. And even though the defense yesterday, you know, they kept the points to a minimum, it just seemed like when it was time for them to make the big play, they failed. And the 15-play drive is the number one drive for me. It's like everyone's looking at Adoree like, oh, you got to make the interception. Let's not forget how they got down there. I mean, they just chunk after chunk after chunk after chunk just get down the field. Can't forget about the drive where Cordero Patterson gets the big play. They're down in scoring territory in 2 plays. It's just like Washington when they ran the wheel route to McKissick and then they ran the back fade to Seals-Jones. You know, you're looking at fast scoring from these other teams when it's the big moment. And that's where the Giants are falling short. They don't know how to win.
And I thought you brought up a really good point. Well, yes, I thought his play calling yesterday was horrible.
Yeah.
He's not all in his control. When they first got in the red zone, the offensive line was atrocious. Daniel Jones, they completely blew it up on the screen pass to Ingram. They hit him within a second. The very next play, they sacked him within a second. The interior offensive line couldn't block. That ruined that drive. His play call when he pitched it, I didn't understand that. 2nd and 3, the pitch call to Saquon Barkley, I thought was a really bad call. And there's been times throughout the year where he's done that. But the play call that really blew my mind away, and it's very possible, I want to preface this by saying it is very possible that Daniel Jones checked to that pass where he threw the 30-yard pass on 3rd and 3. That may have not been the number one option on that play initially, and they gave Jones the freedom to check to that pass, which I'm fine with. Try to take that shot there on 3rd and 3 at the Atlanta 39. But if you're going to give Jones that freedom to try that pass, you have to go for it on 4th down. You can't try a low percentage pass like that, a 30-yard pass on the sideline on a 3rd and 3 from the Atlanta 39, and punt it the very next play. And that's the punt aspect is more judged. That's not Garrett. But yeah, I thought the play call on 3rd and 3 was really bad.
Yeah, and then they did that twice in the game. I want to say it was the first drive or the second drive. We got down to the 3rd and 4, and that's when they hit. I want to say it was Darius Slayton on that deep fade route on the right side. And I even posted something on my Twitter saying, well, you know, Jason Garrett likes to do that. When he sees that one-on-one matchup on 3rd and short, he's going to go for it. But on the second opportunity, if you're going to punt the ball there, it definitely doesn't make sense to throw a deep pass down there on 3rd and 3. And, you know, what I was scared of in this game was that Joe Judge was going to feel the pressure from the fans about, you know, he's been calling a soft game plan. So I thought that, you know, there was a couple early 4th downs there and a couple early opportunities where I'm like, is he going to punt this or is he going to just go hard and go for it to try to kind of, you know, show out the fan base and say, hey, I'm not a soft coach. I'm going to go for it. And then he gets the opportunity there after the 3rd and 3 miss, and he doesn't go for it. You end up punting it. And we ended up pinning them down on the 5, you know, which, yeah, that's a good field position thing. But when it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, you look at the Falcons, they actually punted on a 4th and 2 from our 40-yard line, like right after that. You know, but they pinned us down to the 2-yard line, and Daniel Jones struggled to get the ball out, almost threw an interception on 3rd down, and we end up punting. They score on the next drive. So, you know, for me, it's like it's been a season of damned if you do, damned if you don't, kind of, you know. But it's just when it doesn't work out and the team doesn't win, we're gonna go back and look at these things in hindsight and go, oh, this is where it kind of went wrong. And in this case, it's Joe Judge is just seemingly making the same repetitive mistakes, you know. And it's getting frustrating to be a Giants fan here. Let me get this I got 2 super chats to get to, and then we'll move to the next question.
Yeah.
So John How do you say that one? Let me let you take your Italian roots out and see if you can say that one time.
I'm gonna guess it's John Bellardino.
Bellardino, I like that. It's got a good ring to it. Todd Haley time, laughing my ass off. Just said this on Twitter under John Bella 4 or Eric Bieniemy. Man, I would be ecstatic if we could get Eric Bieniemy over here for the Giants, even to be the head coach. You could get rid of all these dudes. He could be the GM and all that. I don't care, to be honest. But I don't know if Eric Bieniemy is actually going to take a job outside of Kansas City. He might be seeming to wait for Andy Reid to kind of fall out with that job and then maybe be next man up. And prayers out to Andy Reid, man, who had to leave the game and had to be hospitalized, I want to say, either fourth quarter or right after the game. They said he got out and he's doing better now, though. But, hopefully a speedy recovery for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Eric Bieniemy's been a part of that Kansas City offense for quite some time. I guess some of the knock on him was that Reid calls the plays, but Reid gives him a lot of the credit for the offensive success. I'd be completely open if they decide to make a coaching change for going after a guy like Eric Bieniemy. But like you said, I think as fans, sometimes you got to take your fan hat off. And if you were Eric Bieniemy, is the New York Giants job really cool?
Is that an appealing job for you, for real? You've already seen two coaches struggle miserably. Three, maybe.
They gave 3 coaches in a row 2 years. If you're Bieniemy, are they really going to give me I say it all the time, did we really give Pat Shurmur a real chance? No. That team could never win his second year. We didn't have the talent. I understood why they moved on, but if you're Bieniemy looking at that and you're like, well, they never really gave Shurmur a real chance.
Yeah.
And McAdoo made the playoffs his first year. We know the reason we fired him the year after was it was a disgrace. But if we move on from another coach after 2 years and you're a high-profile candidate like Eric Bieniemy, you're like, oh, yeah, Giants, pick me. Right. I don't necessarily know if that's the case.
Yeah, that might not be the case. And, looking back on it in hindsight, the Ben McAdoo firing, I liked Ben McAdoo as a coordinator with the Giants. In his first year there, I was hyped. We get the boat trip team and whatnot. And I'm looking at it like, yo, this looks okay. I'm looking at it in hindsight now, though. What I wanted to say is I think maybe they might have fired him too early because he really just had the one bad season, and they were just like, "Oh, you benched Eli, get him out of here." And I through rumblings of what I've been hearing in the underground is that he wanted to draft Patrick Mahomes, which that would have been amazing for the Giants. But right now we're looking at it where quarterback's not really the main problem here. So it seems like coaching and leadership is the main problem here. And that leads me to this other super chat here. He says, "Hey guys, I really want JG gone. We need something different." Taco Nacho. I like that name too. Shout out to Taco Nacho. Giants Nation's in the building one time. Yeah, man, I know people are looking at Jason Garrett first, especially in a game where now we fall to 0-3. And in that game, the Giants don't put up many points. You got the 2 field goals in the first half, and then you get a touchdown in the second. 14 points ain't going to cut it. And it was feeling real good there when Daniel Jones ran that 2-point conversion, ran over that linebacker. I was feeling like, oh, here we go. I remember I popped in on y'all stream real quick, and I saw Bad Dog, and I'm like, yo, Bad Dog, you got to be more hype. But it's like Bad Dog is like, he's like the psychic. He almost knows what's going to happen. He's got his 8 ball there, and it already told him the Giants are going to lose this game. So he has no reason to really be hyped, to be honest.
I think that's most fans now is they're just so numb that unless we get a win, nothing's going to really excite them from within the game. They just assume, something's going to go wrong throughout the game because that's the way it's been. I mean, we've won 18 games since 2017. 18 games. The New England Patriots won 18 games in 2007.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for an organization like the Giants to be struggling like this for sure. And we got another one from John Bellardino. He says, even with new OC, we got to be healthy in our wide receiver room. I actually love what Colin Johnson did yesterday. Me too. I thought, and I'm glad they gave him a little bit of time on the podium, post game, which was really cool to just see a different player talking and a different perspective. He seems like he could be a really good player for the Giants. I like his build too, and his hands are very sure. That one catch he made on that third down where he was like falling away, amazing catch, man. So I like what I'm seeing out of Colin Johnson. It's good to see another guy, be able to step up. A guy who's not normally used to being in the starting lineup, but it kind of screams, what was it, Austin Mack last year? Remember he had that big game, and all Giants fans were like, "Yep, Pettis had the one good game too." But yeah, I definitely feel you on that, John. All right, let me just make sure we ain't got any more. Oh, we got a couple more super chats. Yo, y'all loading these super chats up today, man. Yo, I know it's been a frustrating week here, man. Y'all got to save y'all money, man, for real. So I'm gonna be looking in the comments for different comments y'all got going here. But Big Blue in the Bronx, shout out to my guy Big Blue in the Bronx, man. Giants Nation in the building one time. I actually tweeted out to him today, man. He's one of the most realistic Giants content creators and fans out there. You never kind of see him doing too much overreacting. I definitely appreciate you pulling up to the show. He says here, don't think Judge is receiving enough blame. And we talked about this a little bit on Twitter too. However, everyone should be under fire. if season fails, fire everyone. Don't be the Jets. Keep Daniel. I like that. I wish this super chat would have came in a couple questions down, but I definitely like that. What's your thoughts on that, Tainer?
Judge deserves a ton of blame. And I kind of warned fans about this before the year started. I remember I talked about it in a lot of my live streams. It was, I thought when you build somebody as up as much as New York Giants fans did in his first year, because I saw it over Twitter too. I remember Dan Duggan made a tweet where after the Giants traded Ryan Santoso, got the 7th round draft pick, he said that Joe Judge is a mastermind and he was able to trick them into giving him a 7th round pick. I'm like, and then 2 days earlier he had bashed Dave Gettleman for a move I made. I'm like, what kind of crap is that? If whenever anything good happens, you're going to give Judge all the credit when there's a move that's made. But anything that you don't like, that's going to be the narrative with the fan base. And I think the fan base was building Judge up to be like this godlike figure to a point where if anything started to go wrong, it was going to be devastation. And I think that's what you're getting. But I'm not trying to make excuses for Judge. Judge has been bad, man. Judge has been really bad these first 3 games. His usage of the timeouts yesterday was abysmal. The challenge was a bad challenge that you knew when he challenged that they're not going to overturn that. And the reward was not worth the risk there. And I even think his first timeout that he used in the second half was a bad one. I would have taken the 5-yard penalty before I took that timeout penalty. It would have been 1st and 15 at the 30, I think, of Atlanta rather than the 25. But I think that timeout in that scenario is more valuable than those 5 yards where it's still first down.
And I think one of the timeouts came when we were backed up in our own territory, like on our 3-yard line or something, 5-yard line. It's like, yo, take the half the distance to the goal. Take the delay of game. Why call a timeout there? So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
And the defensive timeout. I mean, it was just bad. His usage of timeouts have been really bad. And the penalties. The Giants have committed 23 penalties in 3 games. Last year, they only committed 81 all season. They're on for like 130 this year. And for a guy that preaches discipline like Joe Judge does, it doesn't look good when your team's committing boneheaded penalties in the method in which they are.
And I bet he tore them a new one at halftime because they had 7 penalties in the first half. And when I checked in the fourth quarter when the game was winding down, it said they had 7 penalties, but I swear I counted another one.
They had 8. At least ESPN said they had 8.
They had 8. Okay, so ended the game with 8. And then you're looking back at the Washington game where there was 11 penalties in the Washington game. So, yeah, okay, you cleaned it up by 3 penalties. But this team is still showing a lot of undisciplined type of plays on the field. It's becoming a reoccurring theme, which is just really terrible. David also, shout out to David too. He says it wasn't a linebacker, it was Grady Jarrett. DJ ran over. That's an amazing feat for a guy like that who's been fumbling every time he gets hit too. He straight trucked him and then got the 2 yards. So shout out to Daniel Jones on that one. And we got one more from the homie Kalen Dragon. Giants Nation, we in the building one time. Says NYGR poop emoji. I love it. That's one of my favorite emojis, actually. I use that emoji a lot.
How could you not love that emoji?
I love it. Oh my, it's the caca emoji.
Smiling poop. What's wrong with that?
He says, thank you for making these times easier. Hey, y'all making this easier for me. Just being able to engage with Tainer here on Giant Overreaction on a Monday, it kind of can calm you down a little bit when you get to just, chop it up with the fan base and stuff like that. That's kind of why I did these shows. I didn't think that these were going to be like, as bad as they were week 3 into the season. Y'all know the thumbnails got me all sad on the thumbnail. I was hoping maybe a Giant Overreaction for week 3. I could be actually smiling on the thumbnail, but wasn't the case this time. But appreciate the super chat there, Kalen. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. This is day 1 right here. Shout out to Kalen one time. And let me scroll through a couple of more here, see if I can't get somebody. Okay, Taco, I think I got the super chats. I hope I didn't skip any of them. Yeah, man. So I think we can take it to the next question here. Let's take it to the next one. It's like every question I'm getting nervous. I'm just like, I don't want to answer this question. All right, we talked about this one a little bit too, and I think a lot of this stuff with Jason Garrett kind of falls back. You're either a Jason Garrett guy or you're a Joe Judge guy here. So what I'm going to say here is Joe Judge is not the guy for the New York Giants. Is this an overreaction, or are we going to take the under, and fans are probably correct on this one? What's your thoughts on this one, Tainer?
Push.
You going to push on this one?
I don't know enough. I mean, I'll say this. It's trending towards the fans are right. Trending towards the fans are right, but I have not given up complete hope yet on Joe. That'll be my answer for that. I think that I got to see a little bit more from him before I'm completely off the Joe Judge bandwagon and say that we absolutely are going to need to fire the head coach. At the end of the day, last year, he had a shortened preseason. He only had 1 full season, and he's only 3 games into his second year as the New York Giants head coach. But I'd be lying if I said if things don't really start to clean up real fast, if I by year's end, that I would be completely on board with the coaching change. but I'll say
Yeah.
for now a push.
I'm definitely with you on that. And David says it's not just Judge, it's everyone on the staff, which kind of makes me think about this in a way. It's like when you the head guy and you supposed to be the person that's running, the ship, you the captain. When the ship goes down, it's the captain that we got to blame. So yeah, Joe Judge picked his staff, so a lot of that has to do with him. And as far as Patrick Graham, he was getting a lot of praise last year, which Joe Judge wasn't getting that praise as far as the defensive guru and things like that, which that's where I think things can be a little bit flip-flop with this fan base. It's like when it's time to blame, whose fault is it? For me, I got to go to the guy who's running, who's the captain of the ship, When the Titanic goes down, I got to blame the captain. So for me, it starts with Joe Judge. You hired these guys. You knew every one of their weaknesses, unless there was a little bit of influence from John Mara to go out there and pick Jason Garrett as one of your coaches too, because we do know there was a relationship there. I was talking to Big Blue in the Bronx about that on Twitter too, and maybe he kind of forced his hand a little bit on that, saying, I want you to bring in a guy like Jason Garrett, which could be like a dual-headed head coach kind of vibe there. Especially when you're hiring a young guy like Joe Judge, not very proven, special teams guy in New England. And the verdict is out, man. New England coaches, this might not be the tree to kind of pull your coach from. A lot of these guys have struggled. This tree is falling apart here. So I can definitely agree with David on this one. Yeah, it's everyone. It's everyone. But also we got to fault the head coach for picking this staff. And maybe I kind of was trying to deflect a little bit of blame towards John Mara earlier on Twitter, and maybe I'm a little bit wrong on that too, because he's the true captain of this ship. But I look at him as a guy who's not the football experience, when it's who you're hiring. You got to get a head coach. You're hiring that guy because he's the specialist in football. I don't think John Mara's out here trying to find the right players or even go out there and make any tackles on the field. So with the Joe Judge thing, I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm going to take the push on Joe Judge here. I'll give him a couple more games. And let me get to this other super chat here from Max Webster. Shout out Max Webster. If y'all not subbed up to Max Webster goes out there and tries to interview content creators rather than actually being a content creator himself who talks about football. He says, I tried not to be optimistic or pessimistic. That's been one of my sayings this year on Awthentik and the Beard. I've been saying we're not going to keep it pessimistic. We're not going to keep it optimistic, but we're going to keep it authentic and be realistic is what I've been saying all year. So he says, I tried not to be optimistic or pessimistic, but keep it real and be authentic. This season proves it's okay to be pessimistic about the New York Giants. I definitely feel you on that.
It's been okay to be pessimistic about the New York Giants since our last Super Bowl, for the most part. I mean, even in the year we made the playoffs, we had our issues with the boat trip and the way that we lost to the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, and we beat up on a bunch of really bad teams that year. That's the only reason why we even made the playoffs. The offense was a mess that year. But yeah, this organization, since our last Super Bowl, I don't even think, if they're not the worst organization in football, they're among the 2 or 3 worst. They've been that bad. So there's clearly a reason to be pessimistic if you're a New York Giant fan. But yeah, as far as Judge goes, I need to see a little bit more, but he needs to get a lot more aggressive and he needs to show a lot more confidence in his players. If this guy's going to be head coach material in the NFL, that's my take on him.
Yeah. And I did skip a couple super chats here. I apologize for that, y'all. Let me go back up here to Taco Nacho's one. He says, is the season over? Chris Judge is pissing me off. Hey, Tainer, I was telling my girl, I said, Tainer kind of looked like Joe Judge a little bit. The way the ball cap brim, kind of bent, it kind of gives me them Joe Judge vibes. You get that white hoodie, it's a wrap.
I'm gonna need to start changing my hat soon. But listen, man, I completely understand why fans are livid with Joe Judge. Is the season over? It's really close. I mean, I guess I won't say it's completely over just 3 games in, but they need a miracle. And they need to beat up on some teams that we, at this point in time, we just don't see them beating. Realistically speaking, Taco, yeah, I mean, I think the only question I have going forward with this team, if we're not going to make the playoffs, is whether or not this is going to be a complete rebuild or whether or not we're going to try to patch this together and push forward with some of the players that are already on this team. And I honestly don't have the answer for that. I don't know what they're going to decide to do because we have a lot of contracts that are committed to a lot of players that are going to be hard to trade. How are you going to trade Kenny Golladay? How are you going to trade Adoree Jackson? So I don't know what they're ultimately going to decide to do next year, but I think that's what the rest of this year is about, is I guess trying to figure out whether or not Daniel Jones can get the job done. But at the same time, I tell myself, Awthentik, is even if he can't get the job done, or even if he does, can you have any faith in this offensive line going forward to be able to give Daniel Jones a real opportunity to become a real good football team? Because that is to me, you want to talk about overreactions by the fan base?
Yeah.
That to me so far this season has been the biggest overreaction by this fan base.
That the offensive line is good?
Yeah. The fan base, all you see on Twitter, oh, the offensive line's doing good. They're doing to me, the bar was set so low for this offensive line that if they were like the 28th best offensive line, people would be like, oh, that's not a problem anymore. No, it's a problem. Daniel Jones has been sacked 9 times in 3 games, and we can't run the football. So the offensive line is still a disgrace. They're still killing drives. That's still a major, major problem. Andrew Thomas has been good. That's about it.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you on that. A lot of people trying to, just deflect everything about the offensive line and kind of ignore the running block or run blocking situation. And a lot of that's getting pinned on Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's been the kind of back who cuts in the backfield a lot. That's been his style of running since he came into the league. Nobody was complaining about that in 2018 when Saquon Barkley was breaking these big runs. I agree that he could maybe run a little bit more straightforward, but I think that comes with the frustrations of the running game just not working, and a lot of that has to do with the run blocking. Like Billy Price in this game, and Nate Solder. I mean, they look awful. There was a holding penalty there. They backed us up early in the game where I'm just looking at Billy Price like, bro, you might as well just let him go. You might as well just let him run right by you, and maybe Daniel Jones can run out the pocket and make something happen.
Yeah, one was on Bredesen maybe, but those 2 plays that are on the red zone, I was pissed off at the performance of the offensive line.
Yeah, it was tough. And we got another super chat here from John Bellardino. He says, I want us to give Cadarius Toney more bubble screens and some running back direct snap plays. I agree with you on the running back direct snap plays. I totally think that Cadarius Toney could be a guy that you like, with that reverse that they're showing a lot, just give him a running play, have him motion to the back of the backfield and get the ball. We could definitely be more creative there. He says they aren't going to tackle him one-on-one. Please get rid of the curl routes. Yeah, and the curl routes are getting frustrating. We know that Jason Garrett tries to run a style of offense where it's predicated off the verticals after the curl routes, but it's like we're not getting the throws down the field. So people are very frustrated with the curl routes. Definitely feel you on that. And I got one more super chat from the homie, local homie, my man Jason Ferris, one time, Washington football team fan. He says the Washington football team will show y'all how to beat Atlanta down south next week. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Appreciate that, fam. And I hope y'all do. But that blowout y'all just had to the Buffalo Bills was looking kind of crazy. Y'all was looking pathetic, for lack of a better word on that. But Washington football team seems to be in better shape than the Giants with the game-winning field goal y'all got against us for sure.
Yeah, Washington, not very good. We're just that much worse right now. But but as far as his talk about Cadarius Toney, yeah, I'd like to see Toney used a little bit more. I don't think that's the reason why we're losing football games, but I would like to see Cadarius Toney used more in this offense. And the other thing that the Garrett, and it's why Garrett was never a good fit, and it's why I blame the Giants more than Garrett himself. Because do I think if Garrett was in the proper situation, he could be successful? Yeah, his all you got to do is look at his track record with the Cowboys when he had the right pieces to run the offense that he wants to run. For Garrett to have a good offense, you need a strong offensive line. You need to be able to run the football. And we don't have that. We don't have that with this football team. So it's a complete mess. So not only, like you said, does he not have enough time to work the vertical routes, we can't establish a run game, which should set up the passing game because we can't block.
Yeah. And that's making the weapons look like they weren't worth the money or worth the draft stock, because we're not able to throw the ball down the field. Now, and I do think most football, unless you have a unicorn at the quarterback position, most football teams are going to start the game plan with the run. Even the Falcons yesterday, you saw how committed they were to the run with Cordell Patterson. They were getting stopped a couple times there, but late in the game, it actually opened up. And that also brought something else to my attention about our edge rushers. They can't stop the zone run outside at all. And you see Cordell Patterson breaking these big runs and the screen plays out there when you got man-to-man coverage with your cornerback. Like, they're exploiting this Giants defense that I've been saying since week 1 was overrated from last season because they were ranked 9 last year, right? But I like to use my eyes, man. This defense, if I'm game planning against the New York Giants in 2020, I'm not scared of nothing that the New York Giants bring on defense. I'll keep it 100 with you. Yeah, James Bradbury can be known as a lockdown cornerback from what happened last season, but to me, nothing about his skill set says lockdown. It more screams Richard Sherman, in the Seattle kind of defensive kind of scheme where you playing zone, and yeah, you can play that zone good, but James Bradbury's not somebody who's going to go stride for stride with the fastest wide receivers in the league. He's not a lockdown corner. And then also the quarterbacks that we faced last season. I've been hammering this point a lot too. So many backup quarterbacks we faced, from Brandon Allen with the Bengals, Kyle Allen with the Washington football team, Alex Smith, who's not a tier 1 type quarterback at all. And there's more. You got Andy Dalton. You had Carson Wentz, just bad quarterbacks that we played against, and still didn't look like a dominant defense all year long to me. A bend but don't break defense is what the Giants were in 2020. And now teams got tape on what was effective for us. If you look at the Seattle Seahawks game last year, that's probably the best defensive performance that the Giants put up. And teams are looking at that tape and going, what worked? How did they stop Russell Wilson and limit them to, I believe it was 5 points in the first half and things like that. And now the verdict is out. And Patrick Graham is starting to look like a very, very average defensive coordinator. And these people that we brought in, like Adoree Jackson, they're not looking to be these A1 kind of cornerbacks that can lock down one side. I'm even seeing better play out of a guy like Julian Love when he actually gets on the field. So it's frustrating defensively with this Giants team.
Our safety group's been underwhelming. I thought the safety group would be. Logan Ryan has not played well outside of the first game. I've not been impressed with Logan Ryan. McKinney's been very hit or miss for me. Just the defense as a whole. Like, I can't really point to one individual on the defense where I'm like, yeah. And I'll be the first to say I overestimated this defense going into this year because of the factors that you said. This defense definitely did overachieve, probably because of the opponents we went up against. Like you said, all of our wins came against horrible quarterbacks. All of our great defense. Whenever we played a good quarterback last year, when you really go back and think about it, Lamar Jackson killed us.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield killed us. He didn't have that many yards, but he had 3 touchdowns. He was like 27 of 30 or something. Like, you looking at 3 passes hitting the ground the whole game.
Kyler Murray killed us.
Killed Peppers too. My God, Kyler Murray was a matchup disaster for Jabril Peppers. I remember that.
Yeah, so, I mean, my line of thinking going in was more familiarity with the scheme. You added Adoree Jackson. That was our biggest weakness. I definitely expect the defense to be better than this. And I actually thought this week, if I'm being fair, they were good. I wouldn't say great. Again, they gave up the big touchdown before the end of the half for the 3rd straight game. Yeah. And they gave up like a 75-yard drive, like you said earlier. So, definitely not really good. They were much better, but they were atrocious the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, the defense has been, to me, a bigger letdown than the offense for sure.
Definitely. And that was one of my themes last year, is that the Giants struggled in closing games out and closing out prior to the half. That was one of my themes I talked about last year, that every time it came down to it, 2 minutes left in the second quarter, we fail and allow the team to score. Fourth quarter, we're allowing teams to drive down the field and score on us. And if you look at this season, the Giants are ranked 29th. Entering the Atlanta Falcons game, we were ranked 29th in points allowed in the second quarter and 29th in points allowed in the fourth quarter. We're allowing 11.5 in the second and 12 in the fourth, which is why, our defense is showing up a little bit in some of these games. We showed up a little bit against the Broncos. I mean, Logan Ryan had a bad game, but the forced fumble late in that game really kept things alive for us, I feel like. But you look at this game here against the Falcons, and we're falling apart right before the half. And the defense did have that turnover that they forced there, but look at Evan Ingram, with the fumble right on our drive right before the half's about to end. We're trying to put up points here, and Evan Ingram comes on the field and puts up a fumble. So it's like, it's the same theme. The Giants are just like a team that struggles to know how to win, and this feels like it's been the same for a few years. I remember that game-winning kick in Carolina. It was like a 63-yarder. I remember that game-winning kick with the Eagles. I remember a late Dallas game we blew. Like, this just feels like the same theme, and it's becoming frustrating. Not even becoming frustrating. It's been frustrating.
Why I think it's like so hard to like judge Daniel Jones, because that's obviously like the focal point for this team. Jones is in a situation because the team is so bad that if he makes one mistake, he's going to lose.
Yeah.
And you look around the league, Tom Brady made 2 mistakes his first game. They won. Like the Giants are so bad that they can't afford to make any mistakes to win football games. And even when they don't, they still find ways to almost. Last year, they won the turnover battle against Washington 5-0, and they almost lost. They barely won the game.
Right.
They created 5 turnovers against Washington. They barely won the game. Our team is so inept that we have to play mistake-free football. Otherwise, we can't win the football game.
Yeah, and that's very disheartening. Let me get to a couple more super chats. I don't know how you do this on your channel, by the way, Tanner. I'll be seeing your super chats during the game. It's like Price is Right rolling up there. Shout out to Dylan Edge for the $4.99 super chat. With Martinez out for the year, would you trade for Jamie Collins?
No, I'm not making any trades right now. If I'm being honest with you, and I'm right now. Maybe if they win their next 3 games, I feel completely different. But right now, I'm not making any trades. I'm not giving away any future draft capital to try to improve this year's roster. Because let's be real, what is the silver lining? Is Jamie Collins going to make us a team that? Because even if we made the playoffs, which obviously I don't think we're going to do, are we going to do anything when we get there? I mean, let's be real. Jamie Collins going to be that guy. So my line of thinking is, why would I waste future draft capital that could further improve this team to bring in a guy like Jamie Collins, who, if he does have an impact, it's going to be on a short-term basis. So my answer is absolutely not. I'm not trading any future draft capital to bring in players right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Got to definitely keep all the draft capital we got, and it scares me to even think that if Dave Gettleman is here, that he's going to be using those draft picks next season. I'm frightened for that.
He ain't going to be here.
Yeah, I feel you. Rick Ruler 787, appreciate the $5 super chat. He says, I was at the game yesterday. The boos from Mara were loud. The crowd also cheered every time Ingram came off the field. We've hit rock bottom, fellas. I did hear about that with Mara and with Evan Ingram. I didn't see it with Mara because Fox didn't show anything of the ceremony for Eli Manning, which is really strange to me. But as far as Evan Ingram goes, you could tell that the production team for Fox didn't want to enhance the mics and the sound that was coming from the crowd, because they zoomed in on Evan Ingram and I could see it on his face. That was a man that was broken.
I saw that. Yeah,
he was about to cry. It seemed like he was very broken, and I was feeling for him, because he comes into the game, he makes one mistake early on, which when you're used to the mistakes, the fan base is not going to give you no breaks. It's just like when Daniel Jones had his fumble, whatever that was. I think that was week 1 or something like that. He had a fumble and people just losing their mind. On that running play, they're like, "Oh, here we go again." Myself being one of them. And it leads me to think that Evan Ingram might not get that second shot again, or that third or fourth or fifth shot, because we've been seeing this with Evan Ingram. He's got a problem holding on to the ball. That fumble reminds me of one that he had last season where he was almost on the ground. Somebody stripped him. I can't remember what game it was. And in this one, he gets 2 hands on the ball and they still manage to just muscle him.
I think it was the Bengals game, maybe? I think
no, it wasn't the Bengals, because I remember Evan Ingram played really well against the Bengals, but it was right around that stretch. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with Ingram, and I actually do feel bad for him. Yeah. As like a human being, I feel bad for him. I can't feel too bad for him. The guy's making like $8 million, but I do feel a little bad for him. I'm not gonna lie, because you could see how much that hurt him to hear the fan base do that. I don't ever tell fans what to do, and they have every right to be upset at Evan Ingram, though, at the end of the day. And I think his biggest problem right now is mental, and I don't think he's going to get over it, at least in New York. I don't think he's going to get over it. I think the skill set's there. The errors that he makes, I just think it's mental. I think in his head, he's like, I can't screw up. I can't screw up. I can't screw up. And that is why I get so pissed off when I continue to see people bring up this turnover narrative with Daniel Jones, when at least recently over the last 9 games, it's not warranted, right? He's only turned it over 4 times in his last 9 games, because I think the same thing could happen to Daniel Jones, where he's like, I can't mess up. I can't mess up. I can't mess up. I can't throw this football, because if I do, it's going to be, 41 turnovers. And, so that's just my mindset as far as Daniel Jones goes, and the pressures that come from the media. And it's why I hate it, because you have to give your quarterback an opportunity to fail, to succeed. You're going to make mistakes as a quarterback. But yeah, as far as Ingram goes, I think by far his biggest issue is it's mental at this point. And it's unfortunate, because he seems like a great guy, but it's just not going to work out here.
Yeah, and with Ingram, there's a portion of it that I think is like, he's just not tough enough. I hate to say that. In my community, in the hip hop community, they won't spare you in this situation. They'll just say, yo, you soft, and like, that's what I think it is with Evan Ingram. It's a light skin kind of thing. It's like, he's just getting bullied and getting roughed on the field, and I would chop it up to something being maybe mental, but the speed that the NFL moves at these days, you don't have time to be thinking. You have to have instincts to be able to hold on to the ball, and the best of the best do that.
He is thinking. I think. Yeah, he is thinking. When like you said, you don't have time to be thinking.
You don't got time to be thinking. You could see it. Like, I could see his thoughts when he caught the ball. The first catch, he's like, he makes the catch the exact same way. He goes to tuck it away. You could tell he's scared right off the bat. He's like, oh, they're coming for me. I don't want to lose this ball. And the second play, it almost looked like it's the same route. It was a comeback route, I believe. He catches that, and you just like see him just like, oh, I got to tuck it away. Tucks it away. It looked just like Daniel Jones on the fumble. He put 2 hands over the ball like a fullback would. You know how a fullback never fumbles, both hands over it, and then you still fumble. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate. And like you said, I feel a little bad for the guy, but he's making a ton of money. And I think Evan Ingram is done. I think it's a wrap for him. I think it's over.
Now, the funny thing is Tiki had the same exact problems. The difference is the team was winning at that point. They weren't at this. So the fan base was willing to put up with it a little bit, and then he corrected it, obviously, when we got Tom Coughlin here.
And how to your recollection, how long did it take? Because I was a little bit younger and I wasn't as engulfed in football as I am now. And we didn't have all the resources, but like, how many years did it take for Tiki to correct the fumbling problems?
I think, if I remember correct, as soon as Coughlin got here, it corrected. But he was bad with the fumbles for, I'm going to look up his stats right now, so I'm correct, but he was bad with the fumbles for at least, okay. So he had 11. No, I'm sorry, 9. Yeah, okay. So in 2000, he had 9 fumbles. And you're talking about a guy who was not a bell cow running back. He was splitting
carries. Right, he was like a third down back when he first got here.
He only had 213 carries that year. He had 9 fumbles. And then in 2001, he had 8 fumbles. 2002, he had 9 fumbles. 2003, he had 9 fumbles. And then when Coughlin got here, it was 5-1-3. So he only had 9 fumbles over his next 3 years combined with Coughlin when he taught him how to carry the football. But his 4 previous years before that, it was 9, 9, 8, and 9.
So they did give him some time, though. They gave him some time to correct it. But that is a different era of football, and we were winning. We were winning. That's a great point there. I see John Bellardino did another super chat here. We appreciate that, fam. He says Christian Harris from Bama, linebacker, should be a Giant. I'm not a big college football watcher, so I really do like most of my research before the draft happens, but we need help at the linebacker position. Dave Gettleman has definitely spent a lot of draft capital on linebackers and on offensive line, and those are the 2 spaces of the New York Giants that have pretty much been struggling the most since he's been here.
Yeah, I don't want to overlook that need either. Like, I always talk about the offensive line, and to me, that's by far the primary need right now. Like, this team needs to get that situated going forward. But the linebacker is certainly something that they cannot turn a blind eye to. Blake Martinez is really the only reliable. I'm going to give Crowder credit. I actually think Crowder's played.
He had a good game
that I thought's played pretty well. It's been Crowder. But we don't know how long Martinez is going to be here. His contract's up at the end of next year. He's going to be coming off an ACL tear, so you don't know if he's even going to be the same player. So if you bring in a new GM, he's probably not going to be in the long-term plans for the Giants. So they definitely are going to need to upgrade the linebacker position as well next year, probably in the draft.
Yeah, that's definitely facts. And Don Vito, shout out to Don Vito one time, says DG said he would fix the line in 2017 and it's worse. I mean, can't argue that. That's facts right there.
Dave Gettleman failed, man. I was a fan that wanted to give him an opportunity to have a proper rebuild because I knew how bad of a situation he was put in. And in 2018, and this is just me speculating, I always felt like, kind of like how we feel Mara pushed Garrett on Judge, I really do feel like Mara pushed Eli on Gettleman. Or at least Gettleman wouldn't have gotten the job had he said, I'm not sticking, had he said, I don't want to stick with Eli, I don't think he would have gotten the job. That's my honest opinion on it. So that's why I always, even though it was a horrible 2018, I always said, all right, I'm going to give him a clean slate and I want to really give him a fair opportunity to do a rebuild. And to do a rebuild, it takes a few years. And now that I've gotten a chance to analyze his moves and see where this team is at, Dave Gettleman's been a complete and utter disaster. There's real Awthentik right now, if you had a gun to your head, and I don't want to talk like that, but if you had to predict, I could, in all honesty, there was only one player on this team that I could say for sure is going to be here in 5 years unless he has injuries, and that's Andrew Thomas. Yeah. Outside of that, there was not one player in this team where I could say that.
Yeah, there really isn't another player. And with the struggles of the team, it's like, do we keep these guys around who have been a part of this losing mentality and this losing foundation? I think it's really unfortunate on a guy like Saquon Barkley, because with the injury riddled couple of first years here, and a team falling apart that can't win while you're not on the field, and now they can't win with you. I'm really feeling for Saquon Barkley in this situation because I think he has the talent to be a guy that teams are going to want to keep moving forward. But it just doesn't look like that's going to happen with the New York Giants. I'm trying to think of other guys that we've drafted. I mean, Xavier McKinney does not seem to be a guy right now. Everything we've drafted at cornerback has just not been great. It hasn't been great.
Barkley, I think, is a really good player. I just don't think it's going to work here right now.
Right.
For me. Daniel Jones, I think, is a good player, but I don't necessarily think it's going to work here because they were both set up to fail. I think we need to get that foundation situated. Like, even if Daniel Jones, okay. Let's say next year we stick with Judge, which I still think is possible. Like, let's say the Giants next year, because I could see, and I'm not saying this is the right decision, but I could see it being a realistic possibility. If you're Mara, how do you have the balls to go to the fan base and be like, guys, you're going to have to wait another 2 years before we're good again. We're going to rebuild again. After all the torture you've been through. But that's what you would do. If you bring in a new GM and you move on from Jones, that's what you're doing. He may not directly say that, but that is what you're doing. So I could see them being like, all right, we're gonna fire Gettleman. We're gonna bring in Abrams, or we're gonna bring in a guy from the field office to give Judge that one more year of stability and give him one more chance to get this going in the right direction. I could see it being a possibility. But if they don't go that way, I think you're getting a complete rebuild. I think everything's getting thrown in the garbage, and they're starting from scratch.
Yeah, which would be rebuild 2.0. And I know fans don't want to hear that because, we've been struggling the past 5 years pretty much here. And to deal with another rebuild, that's going to be excruciating for us. I don't even know if I'm cut out for that. And which makes me think that they might.
I think fans need to realize what they're asking for. And I think that is probably going to be the right course of action. But here's what I'm going to say for fans that want that. And I think you're right for wanting that, by the way.
Yeah.
But for fans that want that, you have to realize with that, you're going to have to be patient all over again, because the team is not going to just snap their fingers and be great in it's going to take 3 years, I think. I think the first year, you start completely over. The second year, maybe you start to see signs of growth. And then you hope by year 3, if you have the right coach in here, this team is ready to compete to be a playoff football team. So I think you have to realize as fans what you're asking for. And I think it's the right decision, but it's going to require a lot more patience.
And that, I think, is going to put the Giants in a really interesting position that will kind of rewind us right back to 2017, 2018 all over again, where, teams don't want to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I think that they're not, this is New York football. I don't think they're going to go clean house. Let's just, redo this whole thing and reboot, because you have some talent here. These games aren't being like, it's not like we're the Browns and we're getting blown out by 28 points every week, right? We're losing a bunch of close games, which I think is going to make the owner go, we need to kind of win while we rebuild again, which could be the mistake. In hindsight, it's always easier to see it, because even if you look at the Browns had the most quarterbacks, start for them in a 30-year span since like whenever it was, right? Because they couldn't commit to a guy. They're like, oh, they try him, he's not the guy.
You make me think about that. I always laugh about the Browns thing when people are like, well, the Browns were able to rebuild in 2 years. How come the Giants? The Browns took 40 years to rebuild.
Yeah, they took 40 years for the rebuild. The Browns, my entire life, the Browns, don't forget, even Bill Belichick struggled when he went over there.
Yeah, I mean, the term rebuild to me means, well, you're rebuilding up to something that you had success before. The Browns were always crappy. And
they were always bad.
Finally got it right. When they drafted Myles Garrett and they got all those first-round picks in Mayfield and they got the offensive line.
Man, Myles Garrett, he was all over the field in that game this past weekend. That dude's a monster.
I think he's the best edge rusher in football, Myles Garrett, when he's not smashing people in the face with a helmet.
Right. Yeah, that was a wild situation with Mason Rudolph for sure. Let me take this one super chat real quick right here from Jared Stubbs. Looking back, I think we lost that OBJ trade. Wow. Hey, look, Tainer, you know how I feel on this one.
Yeah.
Since day one, I've been saying we lost that trade because the Giants lost more value. It's not about the players we got back in the draft stock we got and all that and what positions we're filled in. You got to think about it like this. You lost your number one guaranteed playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't care what no one says about Odell Beckham, right? Like, you got to think about this. I related it to the movie The Butterfly Effect, right? If Odell Beckham doesn't go to Cleveland, there's not a guaranteed chance that he blows out the knee. Let's not forget, he blew out the knee on an interception that Baker Mayfield threw where he was literally running 40 yards down the field, full speed, trying to make I would say like like you're angry trying to make the tackle. It reminded me of him against Josh Norman, like the anger started kicking out and he tries to make a play and then he blows out his knee. But now look at him. He comes back off the knee injury. I told people yesterday on the parlay when we did the show in the morning, I said, watch, Odell Beckham not the kind of player you got to worry about coming out there kind of hobbled. He's dealt with injuries since year one. He missed the first 4 games with the Giants with the hamstring injury, and they nursed it, and he came out, and he was the best wide receiver for the next 8 games of that year. So I knew he'd come out and get right back going. 5 catches for 77 yards yesterday in a game where Jarvis Landry's knocked out, and he's forced to be the number 1 wide receiver for the Browns. But they have an identity. That's the thing. The Browns have an identity with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the ground, and Baker Mayfield did not make the mistakes, whereas the Giants don't have an identity right now, and Odell Beckham was that. I know a lot of people want to say Eli Manning is the reason why Odell Beckham was so successful. They one hand washes the other, It's both. One hand washed the other. Eli Manning was making great checks at the line, and it also helped Saquon Barkley out in 2018. I don't know if y'all saw the clip that I posted on my Twitter with Victor Cruz and Mario Manningham giving you an insight into Eli Manning's thought process before the games and at the line. They talked about how he was the guy. Like, their careers wouldn't be the careers that they had without Eli Manning. So for me, I've been saying that we lost the trade with Odell Beckham Jr. You got back Jabril Peppers. You got Dexter Lawrence in the draft. Thank God we got a guy like Dexter Lawrence, because imagine if we got a bust there at that position. And who was the other person that was in that?
Zimenez. And
Shane Zimenez.
It freed up like $10 million in cap space. But
right.
After the first year. But listen, man, here's what I'll say about the trade. I understand why they made the trade, and I think anybody being unbiased has to at least acknowledge that they understand why they made the trade. Here's what I'll say. I definitely think at this point you could make an argument that we lost the trade. We definitely didn't win it. I don't think we got killed in the trade, but I don't think we won it. I think it's like one of those trades where if we still had Beckham, I don't think we're a good football team. Like, I know he was a fan favorite and he was a guy. We might have been a slightly better football team, but with the way that we built the rest of this team, I don't think we were going to be any better. But what I can say, if you never traded Beckham, you never wasted money on Kenny Golladay. You never have to sign Kenny Golladay in free agency. So it's almost like the
money was similar. Kenny Golladay making, I want to say, $17 million a year or something like that. It was a 4-year contract. Being
able to use that money somewhere else. So I think it's a trade where I personally as a fan understood why they made it. But yeah, it didn't make us a better team because we traded him. I'll definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and I think Odell Beckham, granted, Kenny Golladay has came in here and he has done some things. I like what he did in the game yesterday. I like what he did week 1 against the Broncos. He's not getting the big numbers like an Odell Beckham. But what I'll say about Odell is you could have maybe masked a lot of these issues that the Giants are having with a guy like Odell Beckham, if healthy, and he was that guy, that we saw the first 3-4 years for sure. You could have masked this a little bit better. And I wanted to see Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Odell Beckham. I wanted to see that. Eli Manning with Odell Beckham was just so electric that the way that Daniel Jones throws the ball down the field, granted, this was all before Jason Garrett came in the mix. I thought that Odell Beckham and Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley could have been an incredible pairing along with Sterling Shepard to go along with that. And then maybe you could have put a little bit more focus going into this draft, on the offensive line. Instead, and I was okay with the Toney pick during this draft. I was one screaming we needed more weapons for Daniel Jones. And when Devontae Smith went off the board, my heart almost shattered. I'm going to keep it 100 because I knew he could have been a guy to come in here and make plays with the Giants. But now it's like, not only do you have these problems with the offensive line, we don't have that wide receiver who just could take that slant to the house. We don't have that guy. Galladay's a guy who could catch the 50-50 ball, but he's not going to take no slant 80 yards like Odell Beckham did against the Ravens. He's not going to make those kind of plays.
Yeah, no, listen, man. I understand it. I understand why he was our best player, and it wasn't even close on those teams during the dark days with Eli Manning at the end of his career. So I completely understand it. It would have made us a more entertaining team. It would have made the offense more explosive. There's no denying it. I still don't think we would have been a good football team.
Yeah.
My line of thinking, and this is just my line of thinking, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I know a lot of people love Odell Beckham, and they're never going to see it from the same lens that I do. I think the New York Giants looked at Odell Beckham as a guy that they did not want to hurt their young quarterback with Daniel Jones. They saw the way that he acted with Eli Manning. They saw him as a diva, and they said to themselves, well, how is he if he's doing that with the greatest franchise quarterback in team history, how is he going to react when we're trying to mold a young quarterback? And that's my honest opinion. I think that was the driving force why they ended up trading him. More so than just like the stuff with the media and the off the field stuff. I think the Giants worried about the growth and the molding of their young quarterback. Whether or not you agree with that, that's entirely up to you. But I think that was the Giants' reasoning why they made the trade.
Yeah. And it's interesting because with Odell Beckham, the famous interview that he had with Lil Wayne where he was dogging Eli Manning, he kind of mentioned a little bit, kind of hinted towards, I need to get with a younger guy with a younger arm, and it hasn't quite worked out with Baker Mayfield, but I'm just curious as to if it could have worked with Daniel Jones, and I would love to know how Pat Shurmur felt about that. I would love to know if they were like in cahoots with the trade or if they were split on the trade. I think that would be an interesting thing too as well. David says here, season is over. Winning is detrimental at this moment. I want to apologize to Awthentik. No apology necessary, brother. We lost the OBJ trade. We failed DJ and Saquon. We wasted Saquon. It's starting to look like that, man. It's definitely starting to look like that. Can't disagree with you. And look at this one here. This one's right near it. Reese over Gettleman. Not mad at that one either. Shout out Greeny Green in the building one time. Reese wasn't that good either.
Reese's first 3 years, he was great. His next 6 or 7 years, he was horrible. But at least he gave you the 3 good years. So, he's definitely better than Gettleman.
Yeah, that's facts. And I think I have one more super chat before we get to the next over under. Let me just make sure here. Okay, I got that one. Got this one. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, Tanner. I really don't know how you do it. All right, so we got this one here from John Schmidt, $9.99 super chat. I wish my co-host the Beard was here to say that $9.99. Nobody say that $9.99 like the Beard. Shout out to Beard one time. He says, the all-around conservative philosophy from the top down is killing us. The GM, coaching hires, players they pick, game plans, etc. is all too conservative. Aggressive mindset is the new era of football. What's your thoughts on that, Tanner?
Yeah, 100%. And you see it with our coach. We say it every week. Joe Judge, you need to play to win games now. You can't, with the way the rules are, the way that they are in today's NFL, where everything favors the quarterback, everything favors the offense, you can't rely on your defense to be able to close out football games. Unless you have, like, the best defense in the NFL, which the New York Giants clearly do not, and you have a team that's, at best, middle of the pack in terms of talent, which I don't even think we are right now. When you have an opportunity to go and win a football game, you have to go and try to do it. You can't rely on a conservative approach in today's NFL and win football games on a consistent basis.
100%. We're looking at 3 consistent games here from this coaching staff of just straight conservative vibes. This week 3 game, I thought that they would come out and really, let the ball fly and not be conservative and use our time management properly and our timeouts properly. And we just look JV out there. We look like we're not ready from top to bottom. So got to agree with John Schmidt on this one, 1,000%. John Bellardino says, what's homie's name? I forget his first name. Rodarius Williams did horrible. Why not start Darnay Holmes? So I heard a little bit about this, and they were saying that Darnay Holmes was struggling in the man-to-man coverage and that Williams was a better option there. But he struggled too. He seems to use his hands too much in coverage, and he had that costly penalty early on that third down that allowed Atlanta to pick up the first down on that drive too. But, I think he could be a guy, but right now it's not. A lot of the players for the Giants seem like they're not ready to be out there. Cadarius Toney being one of them, too, even though he made a couple good plays while he was in the game.
Yeah, I honestly think neither one of them. I like Darnay Holmes when we drafted him. He seems like a great kid. He hasn't been that good with the Giants either. I don't think either one of them has been that good. I feel they probably felt like, let's see what Rodarius Williams could do, but he definitely was getting cooked throughout that game. Hasn't been that good this year when given the opportunity.
Yeah, he's definitely been struggling, man. And I'm doing my best to keep up with these super chats, man. Y'all keeping these things rolling in. I think I'm caught up now. Oh, we got one from Lax here. Actually, I missed, so let's get that. Lax is a day one here. Shout out Giants Nation in the building one time. I'm tired of hiring a new head coach every 2 years. Hire a new offensive coordinator. Use Barkley in the passing game more, and hire a new trainer and strength coach. Can't disagree with that.
Yeah. Let me just read that again, just so I
got you on here.
I'm tired of hiring a new head coach every 2 years. You and me both, man. I think that's what the worst organizations do. Hire a new offensive coordinator, use Barkley in the passing game more. That was the one thing I liked yesterday in terms of the offensive game plan. That was probably the only thing I liked in terms of the offensive game plan. But they did make more of a concerted effort to get Barkley out in space more in the passing game. The first play was actually thrown to him. I think there was like 4 or 5 passes thrown his way, but I thought they did a pretty good job of getting him out in space, which is what you need to do with a player like Barkley. To give him the opportunity to break big plays. I just don't think he's quite there yet where he was in his rookie season, still recovering from that injury. So that was the one thing I actually liked a little bit. But, Lax, I'm with you, man. But unfortunately, if the Giants are going to do this rebuild the right way, that may ultimately be what they are forced to do. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But, yeah, I do not agree with firing a coach every 2 years. I saw it with the Knicks for years. I'm a huge Knicks fan. Knicks fired a coach like every year. They went through him like candy. Before, hopefully we get some stability with Thibodeau, but we don't even know that. You're talking about some of the greatest coaches in NBA history. Lenny Wilkins, so many, Phil Jackson was a part of the front office. It was just a complete mess. Isaiah Thomas. So I don't think that's the right way to go, is just constantly never giving a coach a fair opportunity. It's why I didn't want to fire Shermer after 2 years. I wanted to at least give him a third year. And had that not worked, then I would have just blown it up then. And then brought in a new GM and head coach going into this year had it not worked. But it is what it is. If they fire Judge and the team continues to play like this, you can't really argue if you're a fan.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And what it seems to be the problem is right now is philosophy with the Giants. It's not necessarily just execution. So I don't want another coach here, out of here in 2 seasons. But it looks like it might have to be the case here. And I'm going to catch up on a couple of these. Man, time is flying right now. We got another live coming up at, I think, like 4:30 with the Beard. So we got to fly here.
Let's go.
2 first-rounders for Aaron Rodgers.
He
A
ain't
little
coming
too
here.
old for this team, and I don't think he's coming over here.
I mean, maybe if you fired Judge, him and Judge that is a match made in hell. I don't see that. Rodgers is Mr. Laid Back. Judge is Mr. Discipline. So I just don't see the match at all. Maybe if you fired him, but then if you're Rodgers is like 38?
Yeah.
Why would Aaron Rodgers want to come to the Giants when he could go to a team like the Broncos, for example, have a great defense? They got tons of young weapons. The Colts have a great offensive line. I think there's so many better options for Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to get to handpick the team that he goes to based on the contract that they signed before the year started.
Yeah, that's real, and it would take an innovative offensive coordinator to get over here for him to even want to come to New York. With Jason Garrett, that it just doesn't match.
Yeah, I don't see it.
And Taco Nacho says, Authentik, Chris Maris said multiple times he's sick of losing and he's smashing trash cans. Do you think he does something if we lose again this week? I mean, Giants should expect to lose this game to the Saints. I mean, in 3 games, 2 of them, the Saints have looked fantastic. And Jameis Winston got back to his ways. They got to go out here and really show out if they want to beat the Saints. I would have thought that maybe some momentum from the Atlanta game, if we could have got the W there, could have maybe led us in to get a victory against the Saints. But right now, I mean, this team is just looking really bad. It's not looking like we're going to see a win anytime soon.
How could you expect us to beat the Saints? They have a much better head coach. They have they're much better on both sides of the line. Weapons were better, but we can't block. And right now is at least equal to Jones. I think Winston's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in football. It's just that he was never really given a great situation to succeed. I think now with the Saints, I think Winston's going to have a good year. I thought that going into the year. I think Winston's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great year too. The one thing with Jameis Winston is you don't want to get behind. When he gets behind, he's a terrible quarterback. He starts forcing things. He just abandons all of his technique. But as long as they're playing, close games and playing ahead, I think Jameis Winston can be a good quarterback in this league for sure. So let's keep the theme going here. I know the super chats and I know everybody frustrated from this loss. So we definitely flying through and this first hour and 20 minutes here almost has just flown by. But we got about 15 minutes left of the Giant Overreaction. I appreciate my man Entertainer pulling up one time and giving his thoughts on this. You know it, brother. So let's get to this next one here real quick. Where did we leave off? Oh, okay. I'm going to leave one of these questions off. I'm going to leave one. I don't even want to hear what people got to say about one of these questions now that we're running out of time.
It's that bad.
So yeah, let's go to this one here. And a lot of people have been talking about this one. I'll get that comment off the screen one time. Cadarius Toney will ultimately be a bust. What's your thoughts on that?
Too quick.
Too early, right?
That's an overreaction, man. And he might be. Like I'm not telling anybody that if you're like, oh, he's going to be a bust. It's possible, but the guy's barely played. It's way too quick. Now the things that are working against Cadarius Toney is his offensive coordinator is not the most innovative guy, and for a guy like Toney, you have to be super out of the box thinking and intelligent to be able to utilize him the proper way. So I always said, I was actually my Discord before the draft started, I was like, if he ends up with the Saints, he's going to be a superstar. Because I think Sean Payton, with a guy like that, he'd be great. But I don't think Toney's in the ideal spot right now for him to really get the most out of his talents. But to say the guy's, it's the same thing people did with Andrew Thomas last year. People were calling Andrew Thomas a bust 3 weeks into his career. And now you look at PFF, he has the highest grade of any of the tackles that were drafted in that draft. Right now, he's playing the best 3 weeks in. He hasn't surrendered a sack. So way too early for people that are saying that Toney's definitively going to be a bust.
Yeah, I think this is a quick one. I definitely think it's an overreaction. And Toney had his preseason and mini camp kind of woes that he was dealing with there. Wasn't on the field for a lot of practice. So I know a lot of people are comparing him to other guys like Rondale Moore who are out here balling, first round picks at the wide receiver position. But yeah, I think we got to give Toney some time. And he's shown you what, he only has like 4 catches on the season or whatever it may be. But even in this last game, I mean, the one that he caught where he dodged that defender, I'm like, man, the kid is quick. I think he's definitely got the skill set to be a good player. But, just judging off what I can see from him, it seems like he's not a guy that's knee-deep in the playbook either. He's not one of these wide receivers that's, up there with a guy like Ocho Cinco, that really knows the routes, really knows where he needs to be. And there was a play during this game where somebody was screaming on the offense, "What's the play?" And people were saying that was Cadarius Toney. I hope it wasn't for his benefit, but it doesn't seem to be ready.
I heard the voice back on that because people in my stream said that.
Yeah.
If that's Cadarius Toney's voice, I sound like a woman. There is
Because it sounded like a lineman.
there is no way. It sounded like it was like James Earl Jones almost, like with his rougher, like deep voice. There was no way that was Kadarius Toney that said that.
Yeah, in all my years, I never heard, oh, man. And with this past game, I listened to it. I watched it. I streamed it in my studio on my studio monitors, which is like the system is just ridiculous. So the way that you could hear the calls at the line, it was so clear, man. I got to watch every game like that. But I never heard no one say that loud in a game from the offense. I don't, what's the play? Like it was, and he said it twice. He screamed it twice too, whoever it was. So yeah, I see someone in the chat saying it's pathetic.
I did not say it was Toney. People in my street, I don't have the volume on Cookie Monster when I watch the games. So how could I have said that it was Toney? I don't have the volume on.
They try to call you out, Tanner.
People in my stream said Toney said, "What's the play?" So I just assumed, like 10 people said it. So I just assumed, oh, that was it. And then I went back and watched it when I could hear, and I'm like, there's no way that's Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you on that. I definitely feel that. It didn't sound like him to me either. The voice, like you said, it was a very deep voice. They had that authentic baritone kind of vibe going on. Yeah. So I'm going to take I think that this is an overreaction as well. Got to give Toney a little bit more time. And I feel like game by game, he's looking better and better, and they're giving him more snaps. I was at the game here in Washington, and you saw him on the field a lot. He didn't get no targets or nothing like that, but you definitely saw him on the field a lot, and I think they're just trying to get his feet wet, get him experienced on that one.
Yeah, and I think he'll get more of a role as the season goes along.
Yeah, he should. I think he should. And I got two more for you before we get up out of here. I know we flying through these, but I know the Beard has another stream coming up. I don't want to overlap into his stream. I kind of know where you're going with this one already. The Giants still have playoff hopes within the NFC. I should have put least so that people could get the nod there, knowing that, this division is pretty terrible right now. You got Washington sitting at 1-2. I think Dallas is sitting at 1-1 going into this game versus the Eagles tonight, who are also sitting at 1-1. So, there's room for us to be able to make a push here, but Giants sitting at 0-3, not helping ourselves for sure. What's your thoughts on that?
I wish I could give you guys a little bit of hope. And maybe if Dallas didn't look as good as I think they've looked so far this year, I would have a sprinkle of hope that we could start to turn this around and maybe this division's as bad as last year. But not only have the Giants been underwhelming for me, the Cowboys have exceeded my expectations. I personally think the Cowboys look better than I thought they would. I think their defense is much better than a lot of people thought before the year started. I think the Cowboys are going to run away with this division. I'm thinking at least 11 wins for the Cowboys this year. I really believe that. So I'm going to say no. I don't think we have a chance. I don't think the NFC least will be appropriate this year. I think Dallas is going to be a solid football team.
Yeah, I definitely want to lean towards that pick there because the Cowboys definitely came out impressive. That Thursday night game, Dak Prescott put everybody on notice that the Dallas Cowboys offense did not miss a beat. And their defense has stepped up a bit this year. I know going into week 3, they led the league in takeaways. They had 6 takeaways entering that game. So, I'm high on the Dallas Cowboys. I do think that they're the front runner for the NFC East at the moment. But I'm going to say that this isn't I'm going to take the under on this. I'm going to take the under. I do think we still got hopes. I think the Giants can still make a run here. You're going to have to beat some teams that you're not expected to beat for sure. But I think it's just I can't count us out at week 3. I just can't do it yet.
All right, here's what I'll say. I'll go push. I won't say it's because you said it's too early. It's 3 weeks, and maybe things really click. And because as Giants fans, we've seen it before. So maybe that is a slight overreaction. But I would say very slim chance.
Yeah, we got a couple more weeks here to get it together, I think. If we get to 0-5, 0-6, that's Rap City. Big Tigger in the basement, it's over. You can put a bow on this whole season. It's a wrap for them. But I'm going to give it a couple more weeks. I kind of want to take the push with you there too, but I think that, this is – I'm going to take the under, and I don't think that's an overreaction. I think we got a chance there. And got a super chat here from JD Sports Talk. It's meant to happen. Giants will beat New Orleans in impressive fashion, and then we'll be sucked in again figuring out division scenarios. I don't know, man. People were saying this about Atlanta. I don't know. Right now, this team does not look prepared to beat the New Orleans Saints right now.
I hope you're right, JD, because I want a reason to make content on my channel other than talking about the draft by week 7. So I hope you're right. I don't see it. I don't see it. We stack up with the Saints, and maybe I'm higher on Dallas than I should be. And I guess tonight maybe I'll get a better picture on them, and maybe it was a fluke game. I was more impressed with them week 2, more so than week 1. I actually thought the Bucs week 1 handed them that game, and they found a way to lose it. But week 2 against the Chargers, the way that they were able to establish that ground game and run for over 200 yards, they got back to what made Dallas a really good team. And their defense, I think, has created like 7 turnovers so far this year. So maybe I'm higher on Dallas than I should be, and maybe tonight I'll change my opinion. But I don't know, man. I don't think we're beating New Orleans, and I think Dallas is going to win at least 10 or 11 games. I think they're going to run away with this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the Chargers go out there and beat the Chiefs on Sunday, and we saw what Dallas did with the Chargers. So, I was kind of talking like I'm not sold on the Chargers yet, but, impressive victory yesterday nonetheless. And the Cowboys are just looking really good. They're looking like they can compete with the best of the league. You saw it on Thursday night against the Bucs, and you saw it against the Chargers, game-winning field goal. So, I mean, it's going to be tough moving forward for the Giants. Dallas is a problem. When they didn't have Dak Prescott in the lineup, it made things a little bit more even keel in the NFC East for sure.
I won't rule anything out, but it's very, 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 very slim.
Yeah, 0-3, I want to say it falls to 5%, and that was when you have 16-game season. Now you got 17, gives you one more game, but yeah, the chances are just looking super slim, which will lead me to this next one here. Man, and this is the one that I've been avoiding. This is going to be the last question as far as over-under goes. Appreciate everybody pulling up. This is our highest streaming show that we've had on the Giant Overreaction. We got 103 in the building right now. Giants Nation is definitely in the building. Appreciate everybody pulling up. Appreciate all the super chats, man. And, hopefully y'all got a little bit off your chest during this stream and got to vent a little bit. I'm feeling pretty good about it now. I'm just, my expectations are kind of low for the Giants, but leads me to this next question here. The Giants should fire everyone and clean house.
I wish you could ask me that question at the end of the year. Because, only 3 games in. Here's what I'll say. I'll break it up into 2 parts. Gettleman's gone no matter what. Unless this team wins 10 out of the next 14 or 2. Unless you're smoking the good stuff, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So Gettleman's gone no matter what. And I think Garrett's gone no matter what. Those 2, and I know those are like public enemies number 1. I still think, like I said earlier in the stream, I still think it's too early for me to conclusively say that Judge is gone no matter what. So I from the Judge, I got to see more. It's only 3 weeks, and it's only his second year as a head coach. We got to see how this team finishes. If they have a year where they win 3 or 4 games, I blow it all up.
Yeah,
I blow it all up. If they win 6 or 7 and have some impressive wins, which if they win like 7, I think it's impossible for them not to have a couple of impressive wins. I may at least side with sticking with Judge. So I think it's a little premature with Judge, not premature with Dave Gettleman.
Yeah, I'm going to say that this is an overreaction to clean house because when I look at clean house, I'm talking players as well too. Because if you blow up the whole GM, coach, all of that, whoever comes in next, are they going to want Daniel Jones? Are they going to want Saquon Barkley in the last year of this contract? These offensive weapons really haven't panned out. It's almost looking like Dave Gettleman has wasted a lot of money, especially with Adoree Jackson and Kenny Galladay. It's like they're not looking like impact players, especially when a guy like Colin Johnson can come out here and get 5 catches and do some damage in the offense. They got to step it up, and the money has to be proven that it was well spent. At this juncture in the season, at week 3, I don't think you could fire everyone, but I do agree that it's probably going to be Jason Garrett to go first. I think they'll give Gettleman at least until the end of the season, but Jason Garrett might be the guy that actually gets fired mid-season. If by the bye, we're not looking like a better offense here, and he's stuck in his ways, curl routes and all that, and we're not stretching the ball down the field. I mean, 2 throws down the field against Atlanta is pretty much unacceptable. And both of them look like they could have been hot routes from Daniel Jones, the one fade route and then the second fade route that he overthrew. So for me, I'm going to say for now, this is an overreaction. But it puts everybody on notice. I mean, Dave Gettleman's not doing a good job. No. I came into the season like trying to give him a little bit of props and trying to give him some more time, and I think we gave him a little bit of leadway because at least he was out there trying. He spent the money on Galladay, who was the number 1 wide receiver free agent in the market, who I wanted. Dating back to January, I was saying go get Galladay. And he went out there and he did that. So, I think he's making the expected moves, but it's not working. And on a losing team, I don't think that it's always the right answer to blow up a losing team. Sometimes you have winning parts within a losing team, and I think Daniel Jones is one of them. I think Daniel Jones has proven this year that if you get the right coordinator around him, which I got to give Garrett his kudos on that, he figured out a way to make Daniel Jones clean it up a little bit. You know, Pat Shurmur, yeah, Daniel Jones looked better, had more touchdowns, but he also had way more interceptions, and he also had way more fumbles when he was underneath Pat Shurmur. So whatever they're doing with Garrett, I think it's helping him. And you're seeing a more aggressive Daniel Jones. Like when he's running the ball, he's aggressive. You know, he's tucking it. That 2-point conversion, he just looked like a running back on that. So I like that they're instilling the confidence in him on that. But for me, yeah, I think this is an over. I'll take the over. I think it's an overreaction for the Giants to think that we should clean house today. But end of the season, I do feel like that. The same way you feel about it is that at the end of the season, I might revisit this and feel completely different and think, yeah, you got to just blow this up.
Yeah, I just think it's a question that's too early in the season to answer because there's still a lot more of the story to be told. We've only played 3 games into a 17-game season. But for anybody saying right now, blow it up, I can't argue against you. Obviously, they've won 18 games since 2017. So I understand where you're coming from. The team has lost games that we expected that they could win. And you look at their upcoming schedule and you say to yourself, well, how can we get a positive season out of this? So I completely understand people that feel that way. But me personally, in terms of a complete blow up, yeah, I think it's a little bit premature. I agree with you about Daniel Jones. I don't know if he's ever going to be a superstar, and I don't know if it's going to work here. I don't know if the team's going to be able to support him properly in order for him to be able to be a winning quarterback with only a year before we're going to have to sign to a contract extension. The timeline may just not work out, and the Giants may reset the rookie cycle at the quarterback position. But I agree with you with Daniel Jones. I know Jeffrey Abbey might still be in here. I know he hates him, and I know some people probably hate him, but I do think Daniel Jones in the right situation could be a good quarterback. I just don't think the Giants have presented him with it.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. And he's, you know, sometimes you see players that are able to overcome that, you know, and they cannot have the perfect situation, right? Like where it's not the greatest offensive coordinator. I even think maybe this was Dak Prescott in Dallas. You know, the situation is not completely perfect, but he does seem to find a way to put the team on his back and win games. Whereas with Daniel Jones, I think we're still finding out if he's that kind of guy that, like, yeah, you could rely on him. We saw a bit of that in Washington. I do feel like he put the team on his back against Washington in week 2, but wasn't able to come out with the victory, you know. So I'm definitely in agreement with you there. It's like, is Daniel Jones the kind of quarterback that can like overcome a disorganized franchise like the New York Giants? And so
most
far,
quarterbacks can't. In fairness to Jones, most quarterbacks can't.
Right?
Most don't grow on trees. I just want to answer Cookie Monster. No, why would I hate you? Says Joe, be honest before. No, you just weren't honest. I guess you thought you. I don't think you were lying, but you thought that. I guess I heard it. I never heard it. I just heard it from the chat, and I said that Cadarius Toney said it. 20 people in my chat said that. So I'm like, all right, that must be a fact. But when
shout out to Cookie Monster on that one time
and watched the video, I was like, no, that wasn't Cadarius Toney. But no,
yeah, that's the tough part about doing games live. And I like doing play-by-play a little bit and stuff like that. But then when you're live, you never know. Somebody could hold your opinion on something like that you really don't even feel that adamantly about. You know, it's just something that just happened during the game. So give my man Tanner a pass on that. I got some breaking news from the Beard one time too. He says Josh Gordon, who has been reinstated, will be signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, do they need more power over there? I mean, I know Josh Gordon hasn't panned out everywhere, but God,
they're all coming back to play with Andy Reid. I wouldn't blame him. Best offensive coordinator in the league. And you know what? Me and Jeffrey are going to agree on something, by the way. And I love Jeffrey. I know Jeffrey doesn't like me anymore because I guess I haven't been as mean to Jones as he would like. Me and Jeffrey are going to agree with something. If I had to say it right now, I don't think Jones is going to work out with the Giants. But I don't think it's Jones's fault. I think it's the Giants' fault. But I agree with Jeffrey that more than likely, if you ask me, will Jones get a second contract with the Giants? I'm definitely leaning more no than yes. But I think it's because of the Giants more so than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And it's going to be super difficult to watch Daniel Jones go somewhere else and just start frying and lighting up the scoreboard somewhere else. Because, I mean, he has the skill set. That's the one thing, with the running, the deceiving running, where like he doesn't look like he's going fast, but he's balling out. And then, he deep throws down the field, he's fantastic with. I think he could work on some things outside the hash when he's throwing like, 10 and under, 15 and under. He could get a little more zip. But that, he's still a young guy, and I think eventually he's going to be a good quarterback. And if it has to be on another team, that's what it's going to have to be. Shout out Taco Nacho one time. He says, thoughts on Barkley saying after the game, we have to believe in the scheme. Yeah, I did see that. He said, man, something is wrong with this team. And he kind of backpedaled when they, I think it was Jordan Renan who came at him a little bit more like, what do you mean believe? And he was just like, oh, we got to believe in the next man, making the play next to us, believe in the scheme. And he kind of backpedaled just a little bit. But, yeah, the philosophy and the scheme here in New York is broken. I mean, I think that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to hear the quote, so I'll go back and listen to it after Taco. I was just like so zoned out after the game. I was just like numb. I watched the Eli speech. That was about it. But I'll definitely have to check that out. But yeah, that's definitely a slip up on his part. And it seems like that's the case. Galladay last week, right? When he was arguing with Jason Garrett on the sideline, and maybe some of these players are not in love with this scheme. But what else? What I'll say to Galladay is maybe you should have done your research before you signed with the Giants. You knew that Garrett was going to be the offensive coordinator. But yeah, I mean, what other choice do the players have, I guess, than to believe in the scheme and hope that it works out because they're not the ones that are calling the plays.
Yeah, you definitely got to hope that. I see another one from the homie Jeffrey Abbey one time. He says he ain't doing none of that elsewhere. He's still going to fumble and not keep a starting spot. He's a backup. I don't think he's a backup. I mean, you look at the last 8 games, Daniel Jones has improved, and I think the whole like fumbling thing, it might be behind him. We'll see. I mean, he did have one fumble in this game, but Nate Solder was to blame for that one where he missed the block. But yeah, you can't keep blaming offensive linemen when the quarterback's getting sacked and fumbling the ball because there are plenty of quarterbacks out here who don't fumble every time they get sacked. So I understand the concern for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair for sure. I think his fumbling problem is much better, but it's still not where it needs to be. I think there's still I don't think about it as much, and it's the same thing with like Andrew Thomas. Like I think with Andrew Thomas, I don't even think about him at all anymore.
Yeah.
I just think he's gotten to that point where I'm like, yeah, I could trust him as the left tackle. But I used to be like with Andrew Thomas, like, can I, is he going to make the same mistakes he's always made? I think Jones is I'm still there. I'm less there than I used to be. Where I would gasp anytime he would drop back. I'm not there quite there, but I'd be lying to you if I said that I think he's as sure-handed in terms of holding onto the football as a lot of other quarterbacks in this league. He's better at it, but he's still not. I still don't think he's average in that area.
Yeah, and it's good to have your left tackle be a guy you don't got to worry about, and that's what you want from a left tackle. You want it to be quiet. You don't want to be hearing about the sacks and the pressure that he's getting and all that. So I like what I'm seeing out of Andrew Thomas. But the rest of that line, man, I mean, Will Hernandez struggling, Price struggling, Bredesen struggling, Nate Solder struggling. If you remove Andrew Thomas from that line, you're looking at maybe an F grade offensive line.
I saw. I don't remember who said it. Might have been Jeffrey in the chat. Can you tell us which positions on the offensive line need to be better? He said it way earlier. Somebody said it way earlier. Every position but Andrew Thomas needs to be
every
better.
One of them. And I think even he could improve. I mean, he's playing well for sure. Yeah. But yeah, he could improve as well too. But yeah, every position on the offensive line has been horrible.
The center sucks. Billy Price, Nate Solder's 35 years old, and Matt Parrott's obviously not good enough to beat him out. He's not playing that well. So how good is Matt Parrott? So every position on this offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas needs an upgrade, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, Nate Solder seems like he can only block for quarterbacks that are taking snaps under center and only doing 3-step drops. He seems like he can shade defensive edge rushers out to the outside a bit, but with a guy like Daniel Jones, long drop back is never going to work with Nate Solder. So I think of everything Dave Gettleman has done since he got here, that might be the worst move that he made was overpaying Nate Solder, because he looks very pedestrian, looks very average out there.
Yeah, I think it was one of his more understandable bad moves. Like there were some moves where he made it and you're like, what the hell was he thinking?
Yeah.
Like the Nate Solder was understandable. It's why I don't kill him as much for that one as I may for another move. But yeah, I mean that was a crippling move.
The one thing that bothers me about it is that, they don't pay me to assess players, right? And especially with the trenches, I can overlook a lot of stuff in the trenches because I'm focused on a lot of the skill positions when I watch football. That's just naturally what I do. But it's just alarming that a guy like Nate Solder comes in. You getting a young quarterback. Eli Manning's on his way out. You know that. So eventually Nate Solder's going to have to block for a younger quarterback. And you don't think about that pairing previous to bringing him over here, that it would be such a disaster. I don't scout Nate Solder. I didn't look at every Nate Solder snap like I hope Dave Gettleman did before they brought him in, And just the evaluation of talent has just been so bad, with not only draft picks, but with guys that were signing over with free agent stuff like that too on the offensive line. I know it's worked out in other positions at the middle linebacker and at cornerback with James Bradbury, but, I just expect better assessment of the players from the people that are getting paid for it, because we're just fans sitting here and we got a pretty decent gauge of what's going on with the offensive line here.
Yeah, listen, it's impossible to watch this offense. The casual fan just watching the game, which, could tell how bad the offensive line is. Maybe some of it's coaching, maybe some of it's the players. But yeah, man, and I'm never going to be scared to share my beliefs. I know some fans may disagree with it. Some fans feel like you could probably get away with a bad offensive line. I do not. I think that's where games are won and lost, and it makes everybody else's job easier. And until this offensive line gets at least average, we're not going to be a consistent football team. You can't control the clock that way. Your wide receivers can't run their full routes. The quarterback doesn't have the proper amount of time to throw the football. Sure, there are plays where the quarterback has to make plays. Yeah. There were plays yesterday where Daniel Jones made plays, stepped up in the pocket when there was a guy blindside that he was able to avoid the blitz, was able to roll out, make plays on the run, make plays throwing the football. But consistently, you want your quarterback to be able to live and die in the pocket. And the New York Giants offensive line has not been able to afford Jones or Eli Manning second half of his career enough time on a consistent basis to do that.
Yeah, and that was a really nice move by Daniel Jones to avoid the rush on that play, like faked inside and then jabbed out. I mean, it was great. I love to see stuff like that from him. It shows growth. Manifesto INS, appreciate the $9.99 super chat. He says, I think we finished 500, and that's a terrible thing. Clean house or keep building. We talked about that a little bit. Is Jones the guy? We talked about that a little bit too. Middling draft pick. By the way, Eli should get some love tonight. Also, no offense to Bad Dog, but love this collab. Bad Dog is the man. I got to get Bad Dog on here too. And what we're going to be doing with the Giant Overreaction throughout the year is I'm going to be bringing in another Giants content creator every week. Normally they'll be on Monday. We had the one exception where we did one on Friday after the Thursday loss to Washington because I was at that game and I couldn't let that linger for 2-3 days before I got to talk about it. But definitely look out for Bad Dog to be on the channel too. I'm going to reach out to him next and appreciate that. Super chat 100.
I appreciate the kind words, Manny. I love Awthentik. I always try to work with him whenever I can. He's, like he said at the top of the stream, he's been a subscriber of mine since pretty much day one. He was in my first live stream. I know that for a fact because the crowd wasn't nearly as big back then. And he'd be typing in the chat and then when he told me he started a YouTube channel, I was excited. He's a good guy. Got to meet him at the Giants game and yeah, I'm glad this channel's starting hopefully to grow a little bit. So
yeah, man, appreciate you, lending the crossover with your subscribers and all that. Cause I know a lot of people who subscribed up to us came from collabs on your channel on roundtables and other times you featured me. We did a play-by-play one time last season and stuff like that. So man, big ups to you. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think we got one more here. Oh, we got two more. This is Josh Latore. Says, don't worry, Evan Neal is coming next week. I'm not familiar with Evan Neal.
He's in college. He ain't coming next week. But he's the best tackle in this year's draft class, or at least it looks that way. He's a monster for Alabama. He's like 6'7", 350, and super athletic. Like, if we drafted him, which I think there's a good chance we do, if we finish with a very high pick, we'd have to move Andrew Thomas to the right side. That's how good that guy looks.
Wow. I mean, hey, I'm all for that. If we could bring in a tackle that will make us move Andrew Thomas to the right side, that would be amazing because Thomas is definitely blossoming into a good tackle in this league.
Yeah, Evan Neal looks damn good. Unfortunately, we can't add him until next year if we get the opportunity to draft him.
Yeah. And then we got another one here from Diggy. Shout out Diggy. Y'all know what it is. Sub up to Diggy. He's got a dope channel, man. A lot of breaking news about the Giants over there. He says, what's the over-under on years that we'll be living in this Groundhog Day movie? That's a fantastic question, actually, man. I'll tackle this one first, Tanner. I think, man, I'm going to say we got 2-3 more years of this before we actually get a team that's like, we're confident. They've won the season previous. They were a playoff team, and then we know we're going to get that moving forward. I'm gonna go with 3 years. I'm gonna go solid 3 years.
I want to be optimistic and say what you said. I want to,
right?
And as a fan, that's all I could say to myself is, yeah, I think it's going to be 3 years before we could compete again, and hope that they could turn this around. But the honest answer to you, Diggy, is it's unlimited. We don't know. It's easy for us to say, yeah, they need to flip it, and by them flipping the switch, they're going to get the right guys in here and they're going to fix it. But are they? I mean, there's been so many organizations for years upon years the Browns for years upon years couldn't get it right. Do I think the New York Giants will be one of those organizations? No. I think they're going to get it right much sooner than some of those organizations in the past have. My target date, if this team does not improve this year, which obviously I think most of us agree is it's trending that way. Hopefully that will not be the case. And we do a rebuild. I agree with Awthentik. I think it's 2024 is when I say good, I mean like a legitimate team that could win a playoff game. I think 2024 is probably the soonest that we could see that if you do a rebuild and you break it all down.
Yeah, and I was definitely thinking the soonest too. What do you think on the opposite end of that? What do you think the maximum amount of time could be before they get this together? We do got a lot of draft capital, going into next season.
Are we going to do good by those draft picks?
Right.
You hope that they hit those draft picks properly and they build this team right and they get the right coach in here. If Judge is not going to be the guy, they get the right GM and Yeah, there's reasons to have some hope for the future because of that trade, right? They got 2 very high draft picks. Next year, we're not going to be able to spend any money. We're going to have no cap. The following year, we will. So there's reasons, and we have young players that you hope continue to grow and improve. But the other thing you got to think about, if we do fire this coaching staff, which I don't know if we will or won't, you're now asking all these young players, we talk about what we did to Daniel Jones. You're asking all the defensive players to learn a completely new scheme and start from square one and everything else. And it's just a mess, man. It's just a mess. But there's no real answer to that, and I think I'm learning on YouTube. Like, I don't want to put a time limit on anything. I want to analyze this team as they grow and hopefully get better. But I would say best case, if we did a complete rebuild 2024, if we did a half rebuild, maybe things click next year in 2023, or 2022 rather. But yeah, I don't want to put a time limit on anything because I don't know. I don't have the answers, man.
Yeah, and if you look around the league at the situations with younger quarterbacks coming in, if the Giants do decide to move on from Daniel Jones, I mean, just prepare for that rebuild to take a little bit longer, because when quarterbacks come into situations where the team is not ready to win now, they struggle. And I told people that about Zach Wilson with the Jets. I think he's got all the skill set to be able to be a good quarterback in this league, but you got such bad pieces around him and a losing mentality around him that they got to get it together so quick before his career might, be on that Sam Darnold vibe where it's like, hey, get him out of here, maybe get him to a team that's more ready to win, which the Giants to me seem like a team that is more ready to win. We kind of fit in that Carolina Panthers bubble, and I might be jumping the gun on Carolina and the Sam Darnold situation, but I was high on Sam Darnold last year. I thought Washington should have pulled the trigger on him and brought him in. But, over there with Carolina, starting to work out with a new coach in his first year. But with the Giants, you bring in Daniel Jones into a losing situation, and he's struggling. I think it's just a recipe for a disaster for quarterbacks. You're kind of seeing it happen right now in Jacksonville. You saw it happen with the Broncos, last year with Drew Lock and the previous, so I'm scared to bring in another quarterback with these draft picks, and I do think that that's going to be most important is what the Giants do with these draft picks next season. Bears aren't looking like a great team, but that defense is looking like they can keep them in some games where that pick might not be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is look at the top 2 picks this year, and they're only rookies, and it's only 3 weeks in, but neither one has won a game yet. Trevor Lawrence looked with the Texans, Zach Wilson's looked horrible with the Jets, and I say it all the time, man. You could have there's certain Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are on another level. You could put Aaron Rodgers on this Giants team and winning 12 games. That's how good he is. But those guys don't grow on trees. Those are once every quarterbacks. So for like the realistic quarterbacks that we're going to be able to get in the draft, because those guys are once a lifetime almost type quarterbacks that you're going to be able to find in the draft. It's just they're not going to be able to just flip this team by itself. A quarterback's success has probably more. No, not probably. Definitely more to do with the team around him than the quarterback himself. And until the Giants fix this team, unless you're finding Pat Mahomes, which I just feel like football fans just feel it's so easy to find a quarterback like that. It's not. You're not going to be able to just flip things like that. You have to improve the rest of this roster.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I know fans do like to think quarterbacks grow on trees. They're just like, go get the next guy. Go get the next guy. But, I mean, just look at all the quarterbacks that have been drafted in the past 4 or 5 years. There's not too many people that are really succeeding. Kyler Murray doing his thing out there. But, like, outside of that, there's not too many of these younger quarterbacks that are doing a lot of things right now. So I definitely agree with you on that. And I wanted to shout out the homie Roy Williams, straight out of North Carolina. No, I'm just playing. But new sub alert. Appreciate you pulling up, fam. And also, Manifesto's got another super chat. He says, since we suck, how about we spice up the game day live streams and get a roundtable going? I'm all for that, man. Maybe that's the way I'll do things on my channel, because I try to stay away from the play-by-play because Tainer is just the god at the play-by-play. Like, I tried to go to a couple other people's play-by-play, and I'm just like, this ain't working, man. Like, Tainer with the, working, twerking. You got the... those rhymes you be doing? I'm a big fan of the rhymes. For those that don't know, I'm an artist. I'm a producer from the D.C. area too, man. I live in Washington, D.C., lifetime Giants fan. But, yeah, I'm totally down for the roundtable vibes. That'd be pretty cool to do. Hopefully we don't got to do that and the season kind of turns its way around.
Hey, man, I'm definitely down for obviously I'm still going to do the play-by-plays, but I'm definitely down for, alternating round to whatever. Figure something out on a weekly basis. Maybe doing a group therapy. I don't know. I'm definitely down for that. So
yeah, group therapy is like an AA meeting for Giants fans.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. But yeah, for sure.
And shout out Omar with the $4.99 super chat. He says, Authentic Chris, Judge said the word work like 1,000 times. Did both of you see my tweet with entertainer looking surprised? I did see that tweet. That was pretty funny, man. That was pretty funny. I didn't get a chance to engage in that. I got to go back. My Twitter was looking crazy after this week, too, man.
Wait, I'm sorry. What did I miss? What am I
on Twitter? He tagged us, and he used your face with like a surprised face.
Oh, I missed it then, Omar. I'm sorry.
In response for how many times Judge had said work. On that one. So I got to go back and respond to that one myself. And there's a bunch of Twitter stuff I got to get backed up, caught
Man,
up on and whatnot.
Dribbling in there. Yeah, we're going to be doing that.
The dribbling, bibbling. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Next game's on October 20th, so we're going to be doing a lot of dribbling. And I'm working on some of my new rhymes because we got Dwayne Bacon. So there's something shaking, bacon.
Oh, yeah.
We got some rhymes coming up this year for the Knicks. But
yeah, that's definitely going to work, the bacon. That kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you remember the movie The Air Up There.
Yo, that movie's great.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
You could tell he was a horrible basketball player too, but they made him look like he could do things in that movie. Kind of tried to paint him as a John Stockton kind of vibe, but that was one of my favorite movies coming up as a kid.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, but you gotta get to your next show probably, right?
Yeah, so we got the Beard's coming on at 4:30, man, and look for the Beard to be doing a show here, Washington Football Team oriented to a weekly show. They need a therapy session as well, man. But had a blast having you on the show, Tainer, man. This was all good vibes, man. And shout out to the 95 still in the chat right now, man. Any last words before you get out of here for Giants fans, man, across the country, man, tuned in today?
Thank you to each and every Giant fan that watches my channel, even though this team is absolute trash since I've been on YouTube. And I'm getting sick and tired of being the patient guy. And but I'm going to tell you how I feel. Next year, I'm probably going to be telling you the same message, but don't kill the messenger, because I don't think we have any other choice as a fan base if we start to do a rebuild, but be patient and just hope that they're making the right decisions, because that's the only way a rebuild is going to work. We got 14 games left. It's still a long season, but if I'm being honest, we're 0-3. The schedule is brutal. I can't portray that I'm optimistic right now about the rest of the season. I hope they change that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, but right now it's looking gloomy, Giants fans. But I appreciate all the support that you guys always show, even though this team is as bad as they've been since I've been on YouTube. And I appreciate you, obviously, for having me on Authentic, man.
Oh, you know it, man. I'm just returning the favor, man. I definitely appreciate everything you've done for the Authentic and the Beard channel, man. So big ups to you, man. Y'all put some biceps one time. Let's see them bicep emojis in the chat for the God, the GOAT, entertainer one time. We appreciate my G pulling up, man. That was a fantastic show. Supposed to be only about 45 minutes. We vented for almost 2 hours. Had about 100 in here the whole time, man. Y'all make sure to sub up to the channel if you're not subbed up. I do a show Tuesdays and Thursdays with my partner, The Beard. We talk NFC East, pretty much focused football, mostly about the New York Giants and the Washington football team. So for Giants fans, it's really awesome to get a second perspective from somebody here in Washington. So make sure you sub up. We also do a show on Sundays called The Parlay, where we dibble and dabble with a little bit of fantasy football and a little bit of betting as well, man. This has been a pretty disappointing week for the Giants, and we're only one day in. I know for people who are going to school and going to work, it's going to be a tough week, man. I hope y'all are in the right market. Hopefully y'all are in New York, and some of these New York fans can keep your spirits high. But definitely appreciate everybody tuning into the show today, man. Giants Nation, y'all know what it is. We in the building. We're going to keep this moving, man. Like, hopefully this team can clean it up and we can get some W's on the board, and maybe there's some hope towards the end of the season. I don't think the playoffs are out of the chances right now for the New York Giants, but things are looking pretty grim right now, man. A lot of people on the hot seat. I think people were on the hot seat entering this season, man, and now starting off 0-3 makes it even worse. But once again, man, I appreciate y'all all pulling up. Our next show will be on Tuesday. We're going to be doing a recap for these games at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all make sure to pull up and try to have the best week you can, man. It's going to be tough, man. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. I'm going to try to maybe do another live stream. Maybe we get a roundtable going before the Week 4 games enter. But we got the Saints coming up, man. Things are going to be really tough. So one more time, man, I appreciate y'all. Bottom of my heart for pulling up. Shout out to all the day ones. Giants Nation, we in the building one time. These days are going to get better, man. I've been on YouTube now for 3 years, man. These days are going to get better. When the Giants start winning, all this content is going to be a lot easier to cook up, man. So once again, salute to everybody in the chat. We still got 74 in the building. I'll holla at y'all. I go by the name of Awthentik. If y'all want to continue the conversation, let's jump on Twitter at AWTHENTIK. One more time, Giants Nation, we in the building. Y'all be good, y'all. Peace.
Spike don't care.